Hi guys, tonight we step onto the cobblestones of a city that calls itself modern, that boasts of progress and gaslights and the promise of a new century just over the horizon. The streets are lined with buildings that climb higher than anything you have ever seen, their windows reflecting the last light of a sun that has already set behind the rooftops. Horses clatter past, pulling carriages filled with people in silk and fine wool, their laughter drifting back to you as they disappear around a corner. It is the kind of city that looks like opportunity itself when you read about it in pamphlets or hear stories from those who came before. But if you had to actually live here, especially if you arrived with nothing but the clothes on your back and the hope that things might be different, you would learn quickly that the real story is written in different ink. The reality is simple. New York in the 19th century was a machine designed to turn human bodies into something else, into labour and profit, and finally into memory. And it did not care which bodies those were or where they came. You probably will not survive this, not because of the violence or the disease or the accidents that claim so many, though those are real enough. You will not survive because the simple endless work of staying alive here is itself a kind of war. A war fought every day against hunger and cold and exhaustion and the constant grinding pressure of a city that never stops demanding. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you are listening right now, post your location and the local time in the comments. I love seeing where in the world people are tuning in from. Now, as the gaslights flicker one last time before fading, let your mind drift back to that room, that crowded dark room where you have just become aware that the day is ending and the night is beginning, and let the city show you what it really is. You wake not to a sound, but to an absence of sound. A hollow stillness that fills your ears like water. For a moment, you do not know where you are, or even who you are, only that your body exists in space, and that space is crowded with other bodies. The darkness is complete, so complete that your eyes open to the same black, whether they are open or closed. And you must touch your own face to confirm that you are still a person, still separate from the mass of warmth and breath that surrounds you. The thing beneath you is not a bed in any sense you would recognize if you had come here from somewhere else. It is a patch of floor claimed each night by the same negotiation of elbows and knees and unspoken territorial agreements. You lie on a straw tick if you are lucky, a mattress thin as a blanket stuffed with whatever could be gathered from last season's harvest, corn husks that rustle like insects with every shift, or maybe just a pile of rags that once were clothing and before that were something else entirely. You can feel the floorboards through it, the cold rising up like a slow tide, through the layers between you and the ground. If you are not lucky, there is no tick at all, just boards worn smooth by generations of bodies, boards that hold the memory of every person who has slept here in the darkness of their grain. The bodies around you breathe in a ragged chorus. Someone to your left inhales with a wet rattle deep in the chest, a sound that speaks of factory dust or dock labour, or just the slow accumulation of years in a city that does not care if you breathe or not. Someone to your right breathes shallow and quick, a child perhaps, or a woman small and exhausted. The air moves in and out of all these lungs and fills the room with the thick warmth of respiration, carbon dioxide heavy as a blanket, tinged with the sourness of unwashed skin and the sweet decay of teeth going bad one by one. You taste it on your tongue when you inhale, you taste the others, you taste the room. The room itself has no dimensions that you can see. It is defined only by sound and smell and the occasional brush of a foot against your ankle. Somewhere in the dark a baby stirs and makes a small questioning noise, then subsides, too tired even to cry. A man coughs from deep in his chest, a cough that goes on for 10 seconds, 20, then stops abruptly, as if he has decided it is not worth the effort. You hear the rustle of someone shifting position, the straw under them whispering its dry language, then the creak of floorboards as someone else rises to use the bucket in the corner. The bucket. You know, it is there by smell alone, the sharp ammonia cutting through the general fug, and you hear the soft liquid sound that makes you turn your head away, even in darkness, not from disgust, but from a kind of ancient modesty, the last scrap of privacy you still carry inside you. There is a woman somewhere in this darkness who does not sleep. You become aware of her gradually, the way you become aware of a draft or a distant sound. She is sitting up against the wall, her back to the cold boards, her knees drawn up to her chest. You cannot see her, but you know she is there by the quality of her stillness, by the absence of the breathing rhythm that marks the others she is watching. Not watching anything in particular, just watching the darkness, waiting. Perhaps she is the mother of the baby, and she is listening for its next sound. Perhaps she is a widow who rents this corner, and she is calculating in her head how many more days she can last before she must go to the streets or the river. Perhaps she is simply too tired to lie down, too tired to join the others in their shallow oblivion. Her eyes are open in the dark, and sometimes when you turn your head just so, you can feel them on you. You meet her gaze in the absence of light, two pairs of eyes that find each other without seeing, and then you both look away because there is nothing to say and nothing to do, and the night is still long. Above your head there is movement. You have learnt to recognise it over the nights and weeks and months. It starts as a scratching, so faint you might mistake it for your own pulse or the settling of old wood. Then it becomes a scamper, tiny feet racing across a surface that amplifies each step into a miniature drum roll. The rats, they own the spaces between walls and above ceilings, the interstitial geography that humans cannot reach. They are as much a part of this building as the beams and the nails, and at night they emerge to claim their territory. You hear them running in the space above you, their claws scritching on the lath and plaster, and somewhere in the room a man mutters in his sleep, as if responding to their rhythm. The rats do not bother you anymore. They are just another sound, like the coughs and the breaths, and the occasional murmur of dreamers. Sometimes you wonder if your heartbeat matches their pace, if somewhere in the dark your pulse and their feet are keeping the same time. Two creatures sharing the same darkness, the same building, the same city that does not care about either of you. The first sound from outside comes so quietly that you almost miss it. It is not a sound really, more of a vibration, a deep thrumming that travels through the ground and up through the floorboards and into the bones of your skull. The city is stirring, far away, blocks and blocks from this room. A wagon wheel has turned on cobblestone. A horse has stamped its hoof. A door has opened and closed. The vibration travels faster than sound, reaches you before your ears can register anything, and you feel it in your teeth, in the old fillings that ache when the weather changes. The city is waking up, and you are part of it whether you want to be or not. No, the sounds become distinct, layering themselves one on top of another, like sediment building on a riverbed. First, the wood of the building itself, the frame responding to the first hint of warmth from a sun that has not yet appeared. The beams expand and contract with the change in temperature, groaning softly like old men rising from chairs. The walls breathe, the boards shifting against each other, in a language that sounds almost like speech if you listen long enough. Next door, separated by a wall thin as a single layer of lath and plaster, you hear the murmur of voices. You cannot make out words, only tones, the rise and fall of a conversation between people who have also woken in the dark and are waiting for the day to begin. A woman's voice, low and soothing. A man's voice, rough with sleep. They are talking about something ordinary, bread, or work, or a child who coughed in the night, and their words blend into a kind of music that you have heard every morning since you came to this place. Outside the window, if you can call it a window, the world is beginning its slow transformation from silence to noise. The first animals make themselves known. A dog barks somewhere down the street, a single sharp sound that cuts through the darkness like a knife. Another dog answers, farther away, and then another, until a chain of barking stretches across the city, each dog announcing to the next that the night is ending. A horse snorts and stamps, close enough that you hear the metal of its shoe striking stone. You imagine it standing in the dark, its breath pluming in the cold air, waiting for the carter who will come to hitch it to his wagon and begin another day of hauling goods across the cobblestones. From farther away, from the direction of the river, you hear the lowing of cattle, a sound so deep and mournful that it seems to come from the earth itself. The cattle boats have arrived, or the slaughterhouses have begun their work, and the animals are letting the city know that they are here, that their deaths will begin soon. Now the humans add their voices to the chorus. Footsteps, first one set, then another, then a dozen, then so many that you cannot separate them anymore. They fall on different surfaces, these footsteps, and you have learned to read the ground by sound alone. On the packed earth of the alleyway beside the building, footsteps are muffled, almost soft, a gentle thudding that fades quickly. On the wooden sidewalks that line some streets, they are louder, hollow, a rhythmic knocking that echoes off the building fronts. On the cobblestones of the main roads, they are sharp and uneven, leather on stone, a sound that carries for blocks and tells you exactly where the walker is and how fast they are moving. The earliest walkers are the ones who must be somewhere before anyone else. The baker's boy running to light the ovens, the market women, their heavy baskets already swinging, heading for the stalls where they will spend the day selling vegetables and eggs and whatever else they can carry. The sweepers, bent over their brooms, pushing the night's accumulation of horse dung and garbage into gutters where the morning rains will wash it away, and then, cutting through all these sounds like a blade through cloth, the whistle. It comes from the direction of the river, from the factories that line the waterfront, a sound so loud and piercing that it seems to enter your skull directly, bypassing your ears entirely. The factory whistle, the signal that the workday has officially begun. In Brooklyn, across the river, another whistle answers, and then another from farther downtown, until the whole city rings with the sound of steam escaping, of metal vibrating, of the industrial age announcing itself to everyone within earshot. The whistle tells you that you have perhaps half an hour before your own work begins, perhaps less, perhaps none at all if you are among the unlucky ones who must be there when the first belt turns. You have learned to measure time by these whistles, to know which one means what, to calculate how long you can lie here before you must join the others in the streets. The light arrives without announcing itself. It does not flood the room or chase the darkness away. It seeps. You notice it first as a change in the quality of blackness, a slight lessening of the absolute, a shift from pitch to charcoal. You can almost see your hand now if you hold it close to your face, though it is still only a shape, a darker darkness moving against dark. The window, if you have one, is a rectangle of slightly less black, a frame through which the outside world begins to declare its existence. But most rooms in this part of the city do not have windows that face the sky. They have air shafts, narrow gaps between buildings that allow a little light and less air to filter down from the roof. They have windows that open onto interior hallways or onto walls so close that you could reach out and touch the building next door. The light that reaches you has been filtered through layers of grime and distance, has bounced off walls and travelled down shafts and squeezed through cracks until it arrives weak and exhausted, barely enough to see by. The crack beneath the door becomes visible first. It is a line of pale yellow, so thin it might be drawn with a pen, but it is there, the first evidence that the world outside this room still exists. Dust motes dance in that line of light, swirling and tumbling in air currents you cannot feel, performing their silent ballet for an audience of no one. You watch them for a moment. These tiny particles that have floated up from the streets and found their way into this room, and you think about all the feet that kicked them into the air, all the wagons that stirred them from their resting places, all the lives that contribute to this fine suspended dust that now catches the first light of morning. As the light grows, the room reveals itself slowly, reluctantly, as if it would prefer to remain hidden. The walls emerge from darkness first, stained with years of smoke and moisture, their original colour long since lost under layers of soot and grime. The ceiling hangs low and dark, the beams visible in places where the plaster has fallen away, revealing the bones of the building. The floor is a patchwork of boards, some replaced, some worn to splinters, none of them meeting quite right, leaving gaps that catch the light and reveal the darkness beneath. And everywhere, in every corner, along every surface, the evidence of too many people living too close together. Bundles of clothing hanging from nails, pots and pans stacked in corners. A chamber pot visible near the door, its contents covered by a scrap of cloth. The bodies themselves begin to take shape. no longer just breathing presences in the dark, but individuals. People with faces and postures and the particular way they curl in sleep. A man lies on his back, mouth open, snoring softly. A woman is wrapped around a child, her arm forming a barrier between the child and the rest of the room. An old man sits against the wall, his eyes open now, watching the light with the patience of someone who has seen many mornings and expects to see few more. The air itself becomes visible in the strengthening light. It is thick, with particles, dust and smoke, and the microscopic detritus of human habitation, all of it suspended in the still air of the room, waiting to be inhaled. You can see it in the beams of light that now penetrate through cracks and gaps, a visible haze that moves and swirls with every breath, every shift of a body, every tiny movement. You breathe it in, this visible air, and you taste on your tongue the residue of 100 lives, 1,000 meals, 10,000 nights of sleep and waking. The smell, which was only a sensation in the dark, now has visible evidence. The brown stains on the walls, the greasy film on every surface, the way the light itself seems discoloured, yellowish, as if filtered through old linen. This is what it means to live here. This is what it means to breathe. The first deep breath you take, the one that fills your lungs completely and tells your body that the day has truly begun, brings with it a catalogue of information that your nose has learned to read, like a newspaper. The coal smoke is strongest, the residue of 10,000 fires that have burned through the night, their smoke settling into every crevice of the city, coating every surface with a fine black film. It is the base note, the foundation upon which all other smells are built. Above it, sharper and more immediate, is the ammonia of the chamber pots, the collective waste of a dozen people who have spent the night in this room, their bodies processing the meagre food of yesterday and producing the same products that bodies have always produced. The smell is not unpleasant anymore. Not really. It is just there, a fact of life, like the cold or the darkness, or the proximity of strangers. From outside, through the cracks and gaps, other smells intrude. The bakery on the corner has begun its work, and the smell of bread, of yeast and flour and heat, drifts through the air and finds your nose and makes your stomach clench with a hunger that is always present but rarely acknowledged. The bakery smell is cruel because it promises something you cannot have, at least not yet, not until you have worked and earned and perhaps still not enough. Down the street, in the other direction, a different smell competes. The smell of the privies that serve this block, the overflowing cesspools that the city has not yet gotten around to cleaning, their contents fermenting in the morning air and adding their particular note to the general symphony of odour you have learnt. Over time, to read the wind. When it comes from the east, it brings the smell of the slaughterhouses, the blood and offal and the terrified sweat of animals meeting their end. When it comes from the west, from the direction of the better neighbourhoods, it brings the smell of cooking fires in wealthier homes, the roasting meats and baking pies that are as far from your experience as the surface of the moon. The air has weight and texture. In summer, it lies heavy and wet, so thick with humidity that each breath feels like work, like you are pulling the air through cloth before it reaches your lungs. Your skin is always damp, always sticky, and the smell of your own sweat mingles with the sweat of others until you cannot tell where you end and they begin. In winter, the air is thin and sharp, cold enough to hurt. Each inhalation, a reminder that warmth is a luxury and you are not wealthy enough to afford it. Your nose hairs freeze on the coldest mornings, and the breath you exhale hangs in the air like smoke, visible evidence of the heat escaping your body, the calories burning away with every moment you remain alive. You notice, as you lie here taking inventory of the world through your nose, that you no longer react to these smells. There was a time, perhaps years ago, when the stench would have made you gag, when you would have pressed a cloth to your face and struggled to breathe through the nausea. That time is gone. Your nose has surrendered. It no longer sends signals of disgust to your brain, because your brain has learned that disgust is a luxury, that to survive here you must accept everything, must normalize everything, must make peace with the reality that this is what life smells like, and there is no alternative. You breathe deeply and you taste the city and you do not even think about it anymore. And now, in the final moments before you must move, your body performs its own inventory. You start at your feet, wiggling toes that are numb with cold, flexing ankles that ache from yesterday's standing. You move up through your calves, feeling the tightness that never quite goes away, the muscles permanently shortened by hours of walking on cobblestones. Your knees report in with their usual complaints, a dull ache that speaks of years of wear, of joints that were never meant to bear this much weight for this many hours. Your back, when you shift slightly, sends a spike of pain up your spine, a reminder of that load you carried last week, the one that made you see stars for a moment and left you walking bent over for the rest of the day. Your shoulders, your neck, your jaw where you clench it even in sleep. Every part of you has something to say, and you listen because this is the only body you will ever have, and it is telling you exactly what it can and cannot do today. Your mind, still separate from your body in that strange way that minds are, begins to load the files of memory and identity. You are not just a collection of aches and breaths, you are a person with a name, though no one here will use it. You are a person with a history, though it is written nowhere and will die with you. You are a person with obligations, and these obligations are what pull you from the warmth of shared bodies and the false comfort of the darkness. Today you must find work. Today you must earn enough to pay for this spot on the floor, for the bread you will eat, for the chance to do it all again tomorrow. You owe money to the man who runs this room, and he will be here soon, his hand extended, his eyes calculating whether you are worth the space you occupy. You owe money to the woman who sold you bread on credit 3 days ago, and she will be at the door today or tomorrow, and you must have something to give her. Even before you are fully awake, your brain is calculating. It is a machine that runs constantly processing numbers and probabilities and risks. If you can get to the docks by 6, there might be a chance. If you can get to the construction site on Canal Street, the foreman sometimes needs extra hands. If neither of those works, there is always the street, always the possibility of carrying something for someone, of running an errand, of finding a nickel where a dime should be. You calculate the cost of the day. Bread is 3 cents if you buy it from the bakery, 2 cents if you can get it from the day. Old cart. Rent for this spot is 5 cents a night, and you have 2 cents left from yesterday, which means you need at least 3 cents today just to stay here tomorrow. But you also need to eat, and the bread alone is not enough. You need something more, something with substance. Maybe a cup of coffee from the pushcart if you are lucky. Maybe a bowl of soup if you make it to the mission before it closes. The numbers run and they never quite add up, but you keep calculating anyway because the alternative is to stop. And stopping is not an option. Fear takes shape in your chest, not as a feeling but as a physical presence, a weight that sits behind your sternum and presses against your lungs. It has names, this fear. It is called Grady the foreman who hires and fires at will, who likes to remind you that there are 100 men waiting for your spot. It is called Mulberry Street, where the gangs operate and where you were stopped last week and told to pay for protection. Or else, it is called the landlord, who will put your things on the street if you fall behind, who has done it to others and will do it to you without a second thought. The fear is specific and detailed, not a general anxiety, but a catalogue of concrete threats, each one with a name and a face and a history. You carry them with you always, these fears, and in the morning they are the first to wake, the first to remind you that today might be the day when everything falls apart. You take a breath. Not a sigh, exactly, more of a preparation. You fill your lungs with the thick air, the bread smell and the sewage smell and the smoke smell and the smell of all these bodies around you, and you hold it for a moment, a pause between the night that is ending and the day that is beginning. Then you let it out, and with the exhalation you release something else. Something that might be called expectation or hope, or the belief that things could be different. This is not a choice. It is a surrender. You surrender to the day, to the city, to the reality that you are one of millions, and that your survival matters to no one but yourself. You surrender to the cold and the hunger and the fear. And in surrendering you find a kind of peace, or at least a kind of acceptance. Your body begins to move. Your hand reaches out to find the edge of the straw tick. Your feet seek the floor. The day has begun. You push yourself up from the straw tick, and the movement is not simple at all. It requires negotiation with your own body, a series of small adjustments that begin in your core and radiate outward to your limbs. The tick is low to the ground, barely more than a mattress on the floor, and to rise from it you must first roll onto your side, then press your palm into the boards, then lift your torso while your legs unfold beneath you, like a carpenter's rule opening, after being folded all night. There is no grace in this movement. Only mechanics. Your body has learned over years of mornings exactly which sequence of angles and pressures will get you from horizontal to vertical with the least expenditure of energy, and it performs this sequence now without any instruction from your conscious mind. Your knees announce themselves first. They have been bent all night in the position you assumed to fit into the small space allotted to you, and now they complain as you straighten them, a dull ache that radiates up into your thighs and down into your shins. The sound they make is audible in the quiet of the room, a soft popping like bubbles rising in mud, the sound of cartilage and fluid and the accumulated wear of thousands of days, just like this one. Your lower back joins the chorus, sending a sharp reminder that the floor is not a bed and that you are not young anymore. Or perhaps you are young, but the work has aged you beyond your years. Your shoulders, stiff from being used as a pillow by the person who slept beside you, rotate in their sockets with a grinding sensation that you have learnt to ignore. This is your body's morning music, the overture to every day, and you listen to it not with concern but with familiarity, the way you might listen to the creaking of a door you have opened 10,000 times. Your feet find the floor, and the floor is cold. In winter it is so cold that the shock travels up through your ankles and into your calves, a jolt that completes the work of waking you where sound and light have failed. The boards are old, worn smooth by the feet of everyone who has lived here before you, and in places they are worn into hollows, shallow depressions where generations of bare feet have stood and walked and waited. You can feel these hollows now, the way your soles settle into them, as if the floor remembers the shape of feet and is offering you a place that has been prepared in advance. The cold rises through the wood and into your skin, and you shift your weight from one foot to the other, not to escape it but to distribute it evenly, to let both feet share the burden of waking. The dizziness comes as it always comes, a few seconds of disorientation when the blood rushes from your head, and the room tilts slightly before righting itself. You have been horizontal for hours, your circulatory system operating on one set of assumptions, and now you are vertical and everything must adjust. You reach out and your hand finds the wall, and the wall is cold too, damp with condensation, or maybe just with the general moisture that permeates these old buildings. The plaster is rough under your fingers, pitted and patched, and you lean against it for a moment while your inner ear catches up with the rest of your body. The dizziness passes, as it always passes, and you are standing fully now, upright and ready, or as ready as anyone can be for a day that has not yet revealed its shape. From this new height, the room looks different. When you were lying down, your perspective was limited to what was directly in front of your eyes, a narrow slice of the world bounded by the bodies around you and the darkness beyond. Now you can see the room is small, smaller than you remember it being when you first came here, though it has not changed. The walls are close, the ceiling low, the single window, a small square of grey light that illuminates more dust than space. On the floor around you, the evidence of the night is visible in ways it was not before. The straw tick that served as your bed is stained and lumpy, its fabric worn thin in places where generations of sleepers have lain. Beside it, close enough to touch, is a pile of rags that someone else used as bedding, and beyond that, a wooden crate that serves as a table, its surface cluttered with the small possessions of the people who share this space. And on the floor, in the corners, along the baseboards, the things that come out only at night are now visible in the growing light. Cockroaches, dozens of them, moving slowly now that darkness has retreated, their bodies dark and segmented, their antennae waving as they search for the cracks and crevices where they will spend the day. You watch them for a moment, these fellow inhabitants of your room, and then you look away. They are not worth the attention. The bucket is where you left it, by the door, and you cross to it now, stepping carefully over the bodies of those who still sleep. The room is crowded with sleepers, more than you can count without stopping to do so, and you have learned to navigate between them without waking them. Your bare feet finding the narrow paths of empty floor between outstretched limbs and discarded bundles. The bucket is made of metal, galvanized tin that is dented and rusted in places, and its handle is wrapped with cloth where generations of hands have held it. You lift it, and its lightness tells you what you already know, that it is empty, that before anything else can happen you must go to the pump and bring back water. The door opens with a push, its wooden frame swollen with moisture, so that it sticks against the jamb and requires a shoulder to force it open. Beyond it is the hallway, a narrow passage lit only by whatever light filters through the cracks in the walls. The stairs are steep and uneven, each tread worn into a curve by decades of feet, and you descend carefully, one hand on the wall to steady yourself, your toes gripping the wood to prevent a slip that could send you tumbling into the darkness below. The stairs groan under your weight, a sound that is echoed by other stairs in other buildings all over this city, a symphony of wood and gravity that plays every morning as millions of people make their way from their sleeping places to the streets. The street door opens onto an alley, a narrow passage between buildings that is more gutter than thoroughfare. The smell hits you immediately, the accumulation of a night's worth of waste from the buildings on either side, but you have been smelling it through the cracks all night, and it is no surprise. You turn left, then right, following a path that your feet know even when your mind is still half asleep, and soon you are at the pump. The pump stands on a corner where two streets meet, its iron handle worn shiny by the grip of thousands of hands. There is already a line, as there always is at this hour. A dozen people waiting with buckets and jugs, and any container that can hold water. You join the end of the line, placing your bucket on the ground beside you, and you wait. The woman ahead of you is holding a baby on one hip, and a bucket in her other hand, and the baby is crying with the thin, persistent cry of hunger, or cold, or simply the desire to be somewhere else. The man ahead of her is old, his back bent, his hands twisted with arthritis, and he holds his bucket with the careful grip of someone who fears dropping it. No one speaks. In this line, at this hour, speech is a luxury. You stand, and you wait, and you listen to the rhythm of the pump, as each person takes their turn. The squeak of the handle, the gush of water, the sound of containers filling, and then the footsteps of the person leaving as the next person steps forward. When your turn comes, you position your bucket under the spout, and you take the handle in both hands. It is cold, colder than the air, and the metal seems to draw the warmth from your palms as you grip it. You pull down using your weight, and the pump groans in protest before surrendering its water. The first few strokes bring nothing but air, a hollow sucking sound that echoes in the pipe, and then with a gurgle the water comes, rushing out in a stream that is brown at first, clearing as it runs until it flows clean and cold into your bucket. You watch it rise. This water that will determine so much of your day, and you think about where it comes from. The pipes that run under the streets, the reservoirs somewhere uptown, the rain that fell weeks or months ago and was gathered and stored and sent through these iron veins to this pump where you stand now. The bucket fills, and you stop pumping, and you lift the handle one last time to clear the spout before you step away. The bucket is heavy. You knew it would be, you know it every morning. But knowing does not make it lighter. You adjust your grip, one hand on the handle, the other reaching down to steady the bottom, and you begin the walk back. The water sloshes as you move, each step sending ripples across the surface, and you must walk carefully, evenly, to prevent too much from splashing over the rim. Every drop that leaves the bucket is a drop you must carry in your memory, a loss that you will feel later when you need that water, and it is not there. The bucket bumps against your leg with each step, a rhythmic impact that will leave a bruise by the end of the day, and you shift it to the other hand, then back again, sharing the burden between your arms so that neither gives out before you reach your door. Back in the room, the light has grown stronger, and more of the sleepers are stirring. You set the bucket down in its place by the door, and you turn your attention to the hearth, if you can call it that. It is a small iron stove in the corner, its sides rusted, its door hanging on one hinge, but it is the centre of this room in a way that nothing else is. You open the door and look inside. The ashes from last night are cold, grey and lifeless, and you must begin again. You kneel before the stove, your knees finding the same worn spots on the floor that they have found every morning, and you reach inside to clear the ashes. They are fine and soft, and they rise in a cloud as you move them, settling on your hands and arms and face, marking you with the grey of yesterday's fire. Beneath the ashes you find what you are looking for. A few small pieces of charcoal that were too large to burn completely, and you set them aside. Then you reach for the fuel you have stored, a small pile of wood scraps and coal lumps that you gathered yesterday from the streets and docks, and you begin to build the fire. The technique matters. You know this from experience, from mornings when the fire would not catch, and you went without warmth, from mornings when it burned too fast, and left you with nothing for the evening. You place the largest pieces on the bottom, leaving space between them for air to flow, then the smaller pieces on top, and then the charcoal. And then, from a tin box you keep in your pocket, a few precious scraps of paper that you have saved for this purpose. You crumple the paper and tuck it beneath the grate, and then you reach for the matches. The match is a small wooden stick with a sulphur head, and you have only a few left. You strike it against the side of the stove, and it flares into life, a tiny sun in the grey morning, and you hold it to the paper until the paper catches. The flame spreads slowly, hesitantly, and then with more confidence as it finds the charcoal and the wood. You watch it grow, this small fire that is the difference between a day you can endure and a day you cannot. The smoke rises and finds its way up the pipe. Most of it, though some spills out into the room, and adds itself to the layer of smoke that already coats every surface. You close the stove door, leaving it slightly ajar to give the fire air, and you wait. The fire speaks as it burns, a language of pops and crackles, and the occasional sharp report when a piece of coal splits from the heat. You listen to it the way you listen to your own body, reading its messages, interpreting its needs. Too much smoke means the flue is cold, and you must open the door wider until it draws properly. Too little flame means the wood is damp, and you must feed it more paper or smaller kindling until it catches. You tend it with the attention of a mother tending a child, adjusting, feeding, waiting, until finally the fire settles into a steady burn, and you can close the door completely and let it do its work. The warmth spreads slowly from the stove, pushing back against the cold that has filled the room all night. You feel it on your face first, then on your hands as you hold them out to receive it, then on your chest and legs as you move closer. The heat is not gentle. It is fierce and direct, the kind of heat that can burn if you get too close. But you have learnt exactly how close you can stand without pain, and you stand there now, absorbing it, letting it drive the chill from your bones. This moment, this small moment of warmth before the day begins, is one of the few pleasures you have, and you do not rush it. The clothes you will wear today are piled in a corner, folded carefully last night, so that they would be ready this morning. You cross to them now and begin the process of dressing, a process that is as ritualized as anything in your life. First, the undergarments, a shirt of rough linen that has been washed so many times that it is soft in some places and worn thin in others. It is cold against your skin when you first pull it on, a shock that makes you gasp slightly, but your body heat soon warms it and it becomes a second skin. The shirt carries the smell of yesterday's sweat and the day before's and the day before that, a complex layering of odours that is as much a part of you as your own breath. You do not notice it anymore. Or if you notice it, you do not mind it. It is the smell of being alive. Over the shirt goes the outer layer, a wool jacket that was once the property of someone else, someone who maybe died or maybe just could not afford to keep it. It is too large in the shoulders and too short in the sleeves, but it is warm and it has pockets and it will do. The wool is rough and it itches where it touches your neck, but you have learnt to ignore the itching, to let it become background noise like the creaking of the stairs or the crying of the baby down the hall. The jacket is patched in several places, the patches themselves worn and needing patching, but the patches hold, and that is what matters. You run your fingers over them as you button the jacket, feeling the different textures of the different fabrics, each patch a story of its own. The trousers are made of canvas, stiff with dirt and wear, and they hang loosely on your hips, held up by a length of rope that serves as a belt. They are frayed at the cuffs, and the knees are thin from years of kneeling, but they are whole, and that is enough. You pull them on and tie the rope, adjusting it until it holds without cutting into your waist. In the pockets you find the things you left there yesterday: a few nails, a piece of string, a button that fell off something and that you have been meaning to sew back on. You leave them there. They are your resources, your capital, the small currency of a life lived close to the edge. The shoes are the most important part of your clothing, and also the most problematic. They are made of leather that was once thick but is now worn thin in places, cracked and stiff from exposure to water and mud, and the general filth of the streets. The soles are almost gone, and you can feel the cobblestones through them when you walk, each stone a small, sharp reminder of your poverty. The laces are not laces at all, but pieces of string, knotted in several places where they have broken and been repaired. You put them on and lace them carefully, not too tight, not too loose, and you stand for a moment, feeling how they shape your contact with the ground. Through them you will feel the city all day, every stone and every crack and every patch of mud, and by the end of the day your feet will ache with the knowledge of every step you have taken. The hat is last. It is a cap made of wool, its brim soft and shapeless from years of handling, but it covers your head, and it keeps the rain off, and it marks you as belonging to a certain class, a certain kind of person. In this city, a man without a hat is either a child or a lunatic or someone so far gone that he no longer cares what the world thinks of him. You are none of those things, not yet. So you put on the cap and pull it down until it sits just above your eyes. You are dressed now, fully clothed and ready, and the weight of your clothing is the weight of your life, the accumulated fabric and leather and wool that stands between you and the world. Before you leave, you must check what you have. You reach into the hidden pocket you have sewn inside your jacket, a small pouch of fabric that lies against your chest, and you feel the coins that are there. They are fewer than you would like, but they are something. You count them with your fingers, feeling their size and shape, translating them into value in your mind. 2 pennies and a nickel. Enough for bread today maybe, but not enough for rent tonight. You will need to earn more, and you will need to earn it today, and the knowledge of that need settles into your chest alongside the fear and the hunger and the cold. You check your tools. If you are a labourer, you have a hook for loading cargo, or a shovel for digging, or a hammer for building. You touch them, feel their weight, confirm that they are still there and still functional. If you are a vendor, you have your tray or your basket, your scales or your knife. If you have nothing, you have your hands, and you check them too, flexing your fingers, testing their strength, reminding yourself that they are the only tools you can truly rely on. The door awaits. Before you open it, you turn and look back at the room. It is the same room you have looked at every morning for weeks or months or years, but you look at it now as if seeing it for the first time, or perhaps as if seeing it for the sleeping forms of the others, the grey light from the window, the small stove with its small fire, the bucket of water by the door, the walls stained with smoke and time. This is your home, the only home you have in this city, and you will return to it tonight if you are lucky, and if you work and if nothing goes wrong. You carry its image with you as you turn to the door, a small warmth in your chest that has nothing to do with the fire. The door opens and you step through. On the other side of the threshold, everything changes. Your posture shifts, your expression shifts, the way you hold your body shifts. In the room you are a person with a name and a history and a small collection of possessions. Outside you are a worker, a unit of labour, one of thousands flowing through the streets toward the docks and factories and construction sites where your body will be exchanged for money. The city takes you in, absorbs you into its morning tide, and you let it. You have no choice, you step forward, and the city takes you. The door closes behind you, and the world takes you in the way the river takes in a falling leaf. Not with violence, but with the simple, inexorable pressure of a force much larger than yourself. The street is not a place you enter, it is a medium you are absorbed into, a thick fluid of bodies and sounds and smells that closes over your head and carries you forward whether you wish to go or not. Your foot comes down, and you feel it immediately. The truth of what this city is made of. The ground beneath you is not ground at all in any sense that word once meant. It is a surface compounded of mud and stone, and the leavings of 10,000 animals, and the spit and sweat and discard of 1,000,000 human beings. All of it pressed together by the weight of the city into a kind of urban geology, layers of filth compressed into a single shifting, unstable plane. Your shoe sinks slightly as you step, the mud sucking at the leather, and you feel the cold wetness seep through the cracks in the sole and reach your foot. You lift and step again, and the mud releases you with a sound like a kiss, a soft wet smack that is repeated by every other foot on this street. A chorus of small surrenders to the condition of the ground. The mud is not simple mud. It is a complex emulsion of soil and water and horse dung and garbage, and the contents of chamber pots emptied from windows above. All of it churned together by wheels and hooves and feet into a uniform paste that covers everything and gets everywhere. You learn to walk in it, the way you learn to breathe in smoke, by accepting that it is part of life, and there is nothing to be done. The manure is everywhere. You see it first as piles, small mountains of it deposited by the horses that pull the city's wagons and carriages and omnibuses. But soon you see that it is not just in piles, it is in the air, ground into dust by the wheels, and lifted by the wind to settle on your clothes, and in your hair, and on your food, if you are unlucky enough to eat in the open. You step around a fresh pile, then around another, then you misjudge, and your foot comes down in one that is not so fresh, and you feel the soft give of it through your shoe. The warmth that should not be there because it has been sitting since yesterday, but somehow still retains the heat of its origin. You do not stop to clean it. There is no point in 5 steps you will step in another. The dead lie where they fall. A horse has collapsed at the corner, its legs folded under it, its ribs visible through its skin, its eyes open and staring at nothing. No one has moved it yet. It has been here since last night. You can tell by the way the children have begun to gather around it, poking it with sticks to see if it will move, their mothers calling them away without much conviction. By afternoon it will be gone, either taken by the city's corpse cart or cut up by men who will sell the meat to someone desperate enough to eat it. You do not look at it too long. Looking invites questions, and questions are a luxury you cannot afford. The wheels are the greatest danger. They come from all directions, from streets you cannot see, from alleys that open without warning, from behind you where you cannot watch. A wagon loaded with barrels rumbles past, its iron-shod wheels striking sparks from the cobblestones, and you feel the wind of its passage on your face, and the spray of mud from its wheels on your legs. The driver does not look at you, he does not slow. You are part of the obstacle course he navigates every day, and if you are too slow or too careless, you will be added to the collection of obstacles he must avoid. A carriage follows, its wheels narrower and faster, its driver shouting at someone ahead, and then a handcart pushed by a man bent nearly double, its wooden wheels squealing in a language all their own. You learn to listen for them, to hear the difference between the rumble of a wagon and the clatter of a carriage, to know from the sound whether you need to move or can hold your ground. The crowd is a living thing, a single organism composed of thousands of separate bodies moving in different directions, with different purposes, but somehow avoiding collision most of the time. You are pressed on all sides, shoulders touching shoulders, elbows finding ribs, feet stepping where other feet have just been. A woman pushes past you with a basket on her head, her balance perfect, her face showing no awareness of your existence. A man bumps into you from behind and mutters something that might be an apology or might be a curse. You cannot tell which, and it does not matter. You move with the flow, against the flow, across the flow, learning to read the intentions of bodies by the tilt of shoulders and the angle of heads, learning to slip through gaps that open for an instant and then close forever. The sounds begin as a single undifferentiated roar, the white noise of a million lives being lived in close proximity, but as you walk you learn to separate them, to pick individual threads from the fabric of noise. The vendors are the easiest to distinguish because they want to be heard. Hot corn, they call hot corn, the words rising and falling in a rhythm that never varies, a chant that has been passed down from vendor to vendor for generations. Fresh fish, the fishmonger cries, his voice hoarse from years of crying, and you smell him before you see him, the sharp salt smell of the catch mixing with the general stench of the street. Ragman, any rags today? And you see him pushing his cart, his eyes scanning the crowd for anyone carrying something that might be sold. The sounds layer on top of each other, hot corn and fresh fish and rags and oysters and matches and brooms and a dozen other things you could buy if you had money. If you had need, if you were someone else entirely. The wheels contribute their own music. The heavy wagons rumble low and deep, a sound you feel in your chest before you hear it with your ears. The carriages clatter higher and faster, their iron shoes striking the stones in a rhythm that varies with the speed of the horse. The handcarts squeal in a register all their own, a high-piercing complaint that cuts through the other sounds and makes you wince. And beneath all of these, the constant percussion of hooves, thousands of them, millions of them, striking the stones in a rhythm that never stops, that has not stopped since this city became a city, and will not stop until the last horse is gone. The animals add their voices. A horse screams somewhere nearby, a sound so full of fear and pain that it stops you for a moment, and you look around to see what has happened. But the crowd carries you forward and you never learn the cause. Dogs bark in a continuous chain, one starting and then another, until the whole city seems to be barking. Cats fight in an alley, their screams rising above the general noise, a sound like babies being murdered. And then they fall silent and the dogs take over again. From the direction of the river you hear the lowing of cattle, the sound of animals who do not know they are about to die, or maybe they do know. Maybe that is what the lowing means. And over all of this, the human voices. Children cry, their thin wails cutting through the noise like knives. Men argue, their voices rising in anger, then falling, then rising again, the words lost in the distance. Women call to each other across the street, exchanging information or insults, or just acknowledging each other's existence. A drunk sings somewhere, his voice cracked and tuneless, the words of a song you half remember from somewhere. A policeman blows his whistle, the sharp sound cutting through everything else, and you look around to see what is happening, but the crowd carries you forward, and you never know. A preacher stands on a corner, his Bible raised, his voice booming above the noise, calling on you to repent, to save your soul, to turn from sin, and you walk past him like everyone else walks past him, because you have heard it before and you have sins enough, but repentance will not pay the rent. After a while, you stop hearing, not completely, not in the way you stop hearing a clock that has been ticking in the same room for hours, but in a deeper way, a way that protects you from being overwhelmed by the constant assault on your ears. Your brain learns to filter, to treat most of the noise as background, to listen only for the sounds that matter, the sound of a wagon coming too fast, the sound of someone shouting a warning, the sound of a whistle that means police or fire or something you need to know. The rest becomes a kind of silence, a roar that you hear but do not listen to. The sound of the city breathing, the smells change as you walk, and you read them the way a sailor reads the wind. Near the ground, at the level of your knees and feet, the smell is of mud and manure, and the slow rot of things that have fallen and been trodden into the earth. This is the smell of the poor, the smell of people who live at street level, who cannot afford to rise above it. Higher up, at the level of your chest and face, the smell is of sweat and coal smoke, and the dust of 10,000 activities, the smell of work, of bodies labouring, of the city's constant industry. And above that, if you catch it just right when the wind shifts, the smell of something else. Perfume from a passing lady, faint and expensive, a smell that speaks of rooms you will never enter and lives you will never live. Cigars from a gentleman's club, rich and warm, the smell of men who do not work with their hands. Cooking from a restaurant kitchen, the smell of roasting meat and baking bread, smells that make your stomach clench with a hunger that has no hope of satisfaction. Different parts of the city have different smells, and you learn to know where you are by what you breathe. The 5 points, where you perhaps live, smells of rotting wood and stale alcohol, and the particular sour smell of too many bodies in too little space. It is a smell that clings to you, that follows you when you leave, that marks you as belonging there, no matter where you go. Broadway smells different. It smells of horse and expensive perfume mixed together, the one cancelling the other out, leaving something that is neither one nor the other. The waterfront smells of fish and tar, and the chemical stink of industry, the waste from factories mixing with the natural smells of the river, until you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. Certain smells carry memories with them. A whiff of something sweet and spicy, and you are back at the door of a restaurant where you once stood, years ago, watching people eat through a window. A sudden sharpness of rot, and you remember the horse you saw yesterday, the one lying in the street with its eyes open and its belly beginning to swell. The smells are attached to moments, to places, to people you have known and lost, and they rise up unbidden and pull you back into the past even as you walk forward into the future. The eyes are the most important thing. You learn this quickly. If you want to survive, you do not look at people directly. Looking directly is a challenge, an invitation, a provocation. In this city, where everyone is packed together so closely that you can feel the breath of strangers on your neck, the only way to maintain the illusion of privacy is to pretend that no one else exists. You keep your eyes down, or forward, or focused on the back of the person in front of you. You do not meet anyone's gaze. You do not acknowledge that you see them, even when you are pressed against them, even when you can smell what they ate for breakfast. To see someone is to admit that they are there, and to admit that they are there is to accept a responsibility you cannot bear. But you must look sometimes, and you must learn to look without being seen looking. You train your eyes to scan without seeming to scan, to take in information without focusing on any one thing for too long. You learn to see the pickpocket by the way he moves through the crowd, too close to people, his hands at the level of their pockets. You learn to see the policeman by his hat and his stance, the way he plants himself in the flow of traffic and expects it to part around him. You learn to see the prostitute by her paint and her posture, the way she stands just a little too still in the moving crowd. You see these things without seeming to see, without meeting anyone's eyes, and you adjust your path accordingly. The body language of the street is a language you learn without instruction. When two people approach each other on a narrow sidewalk, there is a negotiation that happens without words, a silent dance of who will yield and who will hold their ground. It depends on many things. A man yields to a woman, usually, unless the woman is poor and the man is rich, in which case something else happens. A white person yields to a black person rarely, almost never, and you watch the black person step into the gutter to let the white person pass, and you see the white person not even notice. A strong person yields to a weak person only when the weak person is backed by something else, a uniform, a badge, the threat of authority. You learn where you stand in this hierarchy, and you yield when you must, and hold your ground when you can, and you watch others do the same. The invisibility of the poor is a thing you learn to cultivate. You make yourself small, quiet, unremarkable. You dress in the dull colours that blend into the background. You move without sudden gestures, without loud speech, without anything that might draw attention. To be noticed is to be at risk. The policeman who notices you might decide to search you. The tough who notices you might decide to rob you. The con artist who notices you might decide to fleece you. You want to be invisible, to move through the city like a ghost, present but unseen, part of the background that everyone looks at but no one sees. The market appears suddenly, as if it has grown from the street overnight. One moment you are walking through ordinary traffic, and the next you are in a different world, a world of pushcarts and blankets and boxes and barrels, all of them covered with things for sale. The vendors materialize before dawn, rolling their carts from the stables where they keep them, setting up their goods in the same spots they have occupied for years. And now they are here, and they will be here until the light fails and they pack up and roll away again. The goods are displayed with an art that comes from long practice. Vegetables are piled in small pyramids, arranged by size and colour, the best ones on top where they can be seen. Potatoes in one pile, onions in another, cabbages in a third, their outer leaves stripped away to reveal the pale green underneath. Fruits shine in the morning light, apples and pears and sometimes oranges if you are near the docks where the ships come in, their skins polished by hands that have handled them 100 times. Meat hangs from hooks, whole animals cut into pieces, red and white and glistening, attracting flies that buzz and settle and are waved away by the butcher's apprentice. Second-hand clothes hang from lines strung between carts, their sleeves reaching out as if reaching for something, their empty shapes swaying in the breeze. They look like bodies. These clothes, like the ghosts of the people who wore them before. And you wonder who they were, and why they gave up their clothes, and whether they are dead, or just poor in a different way. A coat that might have belonged to a clerk, its elbows shiny but not yet worn through. A dress that might have been pretty once, its fabric faded but still holding a hint of its original colour. Shoes in pairs tied together by their laces, their soles worn at different angles, telling the stories of the feet that filled them. The language of the market is a language of performance. The vendors call out their prices, but the price they call is not the price they expect to get. It is an opening bid, a starting point for the negotiation that must follow. You approach a pile of apples and the vendor sees you coming, sizes you up in a glance, and names a price that is higher for you than it would be for someone else, because he has judged what you might be willing to pay. You must answer with your own performance, the look of disappointment, the shrug, the turn away as if you do not really want them anyway. He calls you back with a lower price, and you come back, and you go through the dance again, each step bringing you closer to the place where you both can agree. If you do not know this dance, if you are new to the city, or just new to this market, you will pay too much, and the vendor will smile, and you will walk away with less money than you should have, and a lesson learned. The fraud is everywhere, and you learn to detect it the way you learn to detect the pickpocket, by paying attention to things that do not quite fit. The apple that looks perfect on top, but is rotten on the side. You cannot see. The fish that smells fresh, but has been sitting in the sun for hours. The bread that looks crusty and brown, but is hollow inside. Its flour stretched with sawdust or chalk. You learn to touch, to smell, to squeeze, to taste when you can. You learn that the vendor's smile is not friendship, that his friendly words are not kindness, that this is business, and business is war fought with words and prices, and the quality of goods. Sometimes you have no money. Sometimes you have only things, objects that you have carried with you, that you have found or been given or stolen, and you must trade them for what you need. A button for a candle. If the button is brass, and the candle is small, a length of string for a piece of bread. If the string is long, and the bread is stale, a belt that is too big for you for a bowl of soup. If the belt is leather, and the soup is thin. You learn to value everything, to know what things are worth not in money but in other things, to carry in your head a constantly shifting table of exchange rates that changes with the season and the weather and the needs of the people you meet. The crowd carries you through the market, past the vegetables and the meat and the clothes and the people, and you emerge on the other side without quite knowing how you got there. The market is behind you now. Its sounds fading into the general noise, its smells mixing with the other smells until you cannot separate them anymore. Ahead of you, the street continues. The same street, but different. Now, leading toward whatever work you will find today, whatever chance encounter will shape your day, whatever small piece of luck or misfortune awaits you, you walk, and the city walks with you, and you are part of it now. Part of the great slow river of humanity that flows through these streets from dawn until dark and beyond. The day is still young, and you are still moving, and that is enough. The docks are a world unto themselves. a place where the city meets the water and the two merge into something that is neither one nor the other. You come here because this is where work begins, where the goods that keep the city alive arrive from places you will never see, and where the bodies that move those goods are gathered each morning, like cattle at a gate. The forest of masts rises before you. Hundreds of them, thousands, their rigging crossing and recrossing the sky in a web that seems to hold the very clouds in place. The ships themselves are wooden and iron, their hulls dark with water and age, their decks cluttered with cargo and sailors, and the constant activity of loading and unloading. The smell is of salt and tar, and the particular rot of things that have spent too long at sea. A smell that clings to everything here and follows you home at night. You join the crowd of men waiting at the edge of the dock, your eyes on the foreman who stands on a raised platform, a clipboard in his hand, his gaze moving over the crowd like a searchlight. He is the gatekeeper, the one who decides who works today and who goes home hungry. You have learnt to read him, to know when he is about to point, to be ready to step forward at the exact moment his finger moves. The men around you are doing the same, all of them watching, all of them ready, 100 bodies poised on the edge of movement. When his finger points, you surge forward with the others, pushing and elbowing, trying to be among the chosen. If you are fast enough, if you are lucky enough, you will be one of the ones who gets to work. The gangplank is narrow, a single wooden board that slopes from the dock to the deck of the ship, and you cross it with the ease of long practice, your feet finding the right places without conscious thought. Below you, the water slaps against the hull, dark and oily thick with the refuse of 1,000 ships. You do not look down. Looking down is a luxury for those who can afford to hesitate. You move forward onto the deck and then down into the hold, where the cargo waits. The hold is dark, lit only by what light filters through the hatches, and it smells of the cargo and the men who have been here before you. The air is thick with dust from the grain, with the sharp spice of tea, with the sweet, heavy smell of cotton. You find your place among the other men, and you wait for the signal when it comes. You bend and you lift. The weight settles into your shoulder, into the muscles of your back, into the very bones of your spine. A sack of grain, 100 pounds or more, its fabric rough against your neck, its contents shifting as you adjust your grip. You feel the weight compress your spine, shortening you by inches, and you know that years of this work will leave you bent and broken, but that is a future you cannot afford to think about. You focus instead on the present, on the steps you must take, on the narrow plank you must cross, on the place where you must set the sack down before you go back for another. The trick is in the legs. You learnt this early, from men who have done this work for decades, from watching and from failing, and from the pain of doing it wrong. The back is not for lifting. The back is for holding, for bracing, for transmitting the force that comes from the thighs, from the largest muscles in your body. You squat, you grip, you straighten your legs, and the weight rises with you. The movement must be smooth, continuous, without hesitation, because hesitation is where injuries happen, where backs give out, where men are carried off the dock and never seen again. The plank is the greatest test. It is narrow, no wider than your foot, and it sways with every step, responding to the movement of the ship and the weight of the men who cross it. You have seen men fall, seen them drop into the water between the ship and the dock, seen them crushed when the ship shifted and the gap closed. You do not think about this as you cross. You think only about your feet, about the placement of each step, about the rhythm that carries you from one end to the other. The weight on your shoulder shifts with each step, threatening to throw you off balance, and you adjust without thinking, your body finding the corrections before your mind knows they are needed. The foreman watches from his platform, and you feel his gaze like a weight added to the load you carry. He is counting, he is judging, he knows exactly how many sacks a man should carry in an hour, and he knows exactly who is falling behind. If you slow down, if you rest too long between trips, his finger will point, and you will not be called tomorrow. There are always more men waiting at the edge of the dock, always more bodies eager to take your place. The pressure of that knowledge is constant, a force that drives you even when your muscles scream and your vision blurs, and you cannot imagine taking one more step. You measure time not in hours, but in sacks. 1 sack, 2 sacks, 10 sacks, 50. The pile on the dock grows, and the pile in the hold shrinks, and the sun moves across the sky without you noticing. When the ship is empty or when it is full, depending on which way the cargo is moving, you stop. You straighten your back slowly, carefully, feeling each vertebra settle back into place. You wipe the sweat from your face, and you wait for the foreman to tell you what comes next. Sometimes there is another ship, sometimes there is not. You take what you can get, and you are grateful for it. The factory is a different kind of world. A world of walls and windows and the constant throb of machinery. You enter through a door that is smaller than you expected, a human-sized opening in a wall that stretches for blocks, and you are immediately swallowed by the sound. It is not a sound you hear so much as a sound you inhabit, a vibration that fills your chest and your head and your bones until you cannot tell where the machine ends and you begin. The air is thick with lint or dust or the chemical smell of whatever is being made, and it coats your lungs with each breath, a fine layer of the product settling inside you. The machines are the gods of this place. They stand in long rows, their iron bodies gleaming with oil, their belts and wheels spinning in patterns too fast to follow. They are tended by workers who move among them like priests at an altar, making small adjustments, feeding them material, removing what they produce. The rhythm of the machines is the rhythm of the day, faster than your heartbeat, more persistent than your breath. You must match it or be broken by it. Your station is a small space between two machines, a patch of floor that is yours for as long as you work here. Your job is simple. So simple that a child could do it, and indeed children do it in other parts of this factory. Their small hands fitting into spaces yours cannot reach. You reach for a piece of material, you position it, you press a lever, you remove the finished piece, you reach for another. The movement repeats itself endlessly, hundreds of times an hour, thousands of times a day, until your hands move without your mind telling them to, until the motion is as automatic as breathing. Your hands change over time. They become stronger in some ways, weaker in others. The muscles of your fingers develop in patterns you never asked for, shaping themselves to the work. Calluses form in specific places, protecting the skin from the constant friction. And sometimes, when you are not paying enough attention, the machine takes a piece of you, a finger, a nail, a patch of skin. It happens so quickly that you do not feel it at first, only see the blood and wonder where it came from. The overseer gives you a rag and tells you to wrap it, to keep working, that there is no time to stop. You wrap it and you keep working, and the machine takes its tribute and moves on. The temperature in the factory is never comfortable. In summer, the machines generate their own heat, adding to the heat of the day until the air becomes a thick soup that you breathe with effort. Men faint at their stations, collapsing onto the floor, and are carried out and replaced by others, waiting at the gate. In winter, the machines are the only source of warmth, and you crowd close to them when you can, stealing heat between operations. But the heat is dangerous too, burning those who get too close, adding burns to the catalogue of injuries that are simply part of the work. The overseer walks the aisles between the machines, his eyes moving constantly, his presence a pressure you feel even when you cannot see him. He carries a stick, not to hit with, usually, but to point, to tap, to remind you that he is watching. If you slow down, if you pause to wipe the sweat from your eyes, if you let your attention wander for even a moment, he will be there, his stick tapping on your machine, his eyes telling you what his mouth does not need to say. He has a book, and in that book he keeps track. At the end of the day, the numbers in that book determine what you are paid. A few seconds of rest can cost you a penny. A minute can cost you more. You learn not to rest. The street is a different kind of workplace, one with no walls and no overseer and no guarantee of anything at all. You come here because the docks did not take you today, because the factory gates were closed, because there is no other place for you to go. You bring what you have, which is yourself, your voice, your willingness to do anything for a penny. You find a corner, a spot that is yours only until someone stronger wants it, and you begin. If you are a child, you have a box and a brush. You position yourself near the entrance to a hotel or a restaurant where gentlemen in good shoes come and go. You watch their feet as they approach, judging the quality of the leather, the amount of mud on the toes, the likelihood that they will pay a penny to have them cleaned. When you see a likely customer, you call out, your voice high and clear, offering your services. Some ignore you, some wave you away, some stop, and you kneel before them and you work. Your brush moving in quick circles, your rag polishing the leather until it shines. They drop a penny, sometimes two, and you catch it before it hits the ground, and you move on to the next pair of feet. If you are older, you have newspapers, a stack of them under your arm, their headlines screaming the news of the day. You do not read the news, not really. You scan the headlines, find the most alarming one, and you shout it at the top of your lungs. Extra, extra, read all about it. The more terrible the news, the faster the papers sell. A murder, a fire, a scandal, a war. You learn to make the words sound urgent even when you do not understand what they mean. People press pennies into your hand and take the papers and walk away reading, and you pocket the pennies and move on to the next corner. If you have something to sell, you set up your cart or your blanket or your box and you wait. The police are your enemy here. They move through the streets clearing vendors, enforcing rules that no one can quite explain. You learn to watch for them, to spot their uniforms blocks away, to pack up your goods and move before they reach you. Sometimes you are too slow and they confiscate your cart, your goods, your means of survival for the day. You watch them walk away with everything you own, and you feel something inside you close down. A small death that prepares you for the larger one to come. You find a spot, a good spot, a spot where people with money pass regularly, a church door on Sunday morning, a theatre entrance in the evening, a market on a busy day. You position yourself and you arrange your face into the appropriate expression. Sorrow, need, desperation. You show your wounds if you have them, the stump of an amputated limb, the scar of an old injury, the twisted shape of a body broken by work or disease. You hold out your hand and you wait. Most people pass without looking. Some drop a penny without meeting your eyes. A very few stop and speak, offering words that are supposed to be comfort but feel like judgment. You take what you can get and you move on when the spot stops producing. The street has its own society, its own rules, its own hierarchy. You learn who to trust, who to avoid, who will lend you a penny when you are short, and who will take your last penny if you are not careful. There are no contracts here, no written agreements, only the constant negotiation of favours and debts, and the understanding that today's friend may be tomorrow's enemy. You build relationships slowly over months and years, learning who will watch your cart while you relieve yourself, who will save you a spot when you are late, who will tell you when the police are coming. These relationships are your safety net, your insurance, your only protection against the complete chaos of life on the street. For some, the work happens at home, in the same space where you sleep and eat, and try to remember what it feels like to rest. The room that was your shelter becomes your workplace, its few pieces of furniture rearranged to accommodate the materials you bring in. The bed becomes a table covered with fabric and thread, and the half-finished pieces that must be completed by morning. The table becomes a cutting surface, its surface scarred by scissors and knives. There is no separation between living and working, no boundary that allows you to leave your labour behind. It is always here, always waiting, always demanding attention. The work itself is small, detailed, demanding. You sew your needle moving through fabric in patterns that your fingers know by heart. A shirt, a dress, a pair of trousers. The pieces come to you cut, or you cut them yourself, and you join them together with thread that you must provide, paying for it out of the meagre wages you will receive. The stitches must be even, small, strong. A customer who finds a loose seam will not pay, will not come back, will tell others who will also not come. You work by daylight when you have it, by candlelight when you do not. Your eyes straining, your fingers growing numb. The man who brings you the work is not your employer, not really. He is a middleman, a contractor who collects finished pieces from a dozen women like you and delivers them to the factory that will sell them. He pays what he wants, deducts what he wants, invents reasons to pay less. The collar is crooked, he says, though you know it is straight. The seams are uneven, he says, though you have been sewing since you were a child, and your seams are the envy of every woman in this building. He holds the power, the connection to the factory, the ability to give work or withhold it. You take what he gives, and you say thank you because there is no alternative. Your children help, they have no choice. The younger ones sit on the floor and sort buttons, their small hands perfect for the task. The older ones learn to sew. Their first stitch is clumsy, but improving with each attempt. They should be in school, should be playing, should be doing anything but this. But there is no school that will take them, and no play that will feed them, and no alternative to the work that must be done. You watch them bent over the fabric, their faces serious, their eyes tired, and you feel something that is too complicated for words. A mixture of love and guilt, and the simple recognition that this is life, and it cannot be otherwise, even when you are not sewing. Your hands remember. You stand at the stove stirring a pot, and your fingers move as if holding a needle. You lie down to sleep, and your hands continue the motion, tracing stitches in the air. The work has entered you, become part of your body, part of your dreams. You cannot escape it even when you try. And you do not try very hard, because the work is also your hope. The only thing standing between you and the street, the only guarantee that tomorrow you will eat. For a few, the work is different. It happens in buildings of marble and glass, where the air is cleaner and the noise is quieter, and the work is done with pens instead of hands. You are lucky if you are one of these, though you do not always feel lucky. The building rises before you, taller than any building has a right to be. Its facade ornamented with columns and cornices and the names of companies you have never heard of. You enter through a door that is polished brass, swung by a man in uniform who nods at you as you pass, and you walk on floors of marble that reflect the light from gas fixtures on the walls. The elevator is a cage of iron that rises through the building with a whine of cables, carrying you and a dozen others to the floor where you work. Your clothes are different here. The rough fabrics of the dock and the factory would mark you as belonging elsewhere, so you wear what you can afford of the uniform of the clerk. A shirt with a collar that starches your neck raw by midday. A jacket that constricts your shoulders, limiting your movement. Shoes that pinch your feet but shine when you polish them. These clothes are uncomfortable, but they are also your identity, the marker that separates you from the men who work with their hands. You wear them, and you suffer, and you are grateful for the suffering because it means you are not them. The work itself is not so different. When you think about it, it is still repetition, still the same motion performed thousands of times. But here, the motion is with a pen, scratching numbers into ledgers, copying letters into books, filing papers into cabinets. Your hand cramps from holding the pen, your shoulder aches from the posture, your eyes blur from the small print. But you are inside, warm in winter, shaded in summer. You are not lifting, not straining, not risking your life with every step. You are a clerk, and that means something. The clock on the wall is your master. It ticks away the minutes, marking the progress of the day with a precision that the sun could never match. You start at 8, you break at noon, you finish at 6. The hours are fixed, predictable, the same every day. You know exactly how long you have been working and exactly how long remains. This is a luxury, this knowledge, but it is also a kind of torture. In the dockyard, you did not watch the clock, because there was no clock to watch here. You cannot stop watching, cannot stop calculating, cannot stop wishing the hands would move faster. Your position is ambiguous, and the ambiguity is its own kind of burden. You are not a worker, not really. You do not work with your hands, do not sweat, do not risk injury, but you are not management either. You take orders, you follow instructions, you are paid by the hour like any labourer. The men above you look down on you, the men below you look up with resentment. You are in the middle, suspended between worlds, belonging fully to neither. The anxiety of this position is constant, a low hum beneath everything else. The fear that you might slip, might fall, might find yourself back on the docks with the men who work with their hands and whose hands are stronger than yours will ever be. The day ends and you leave the marble building, your collar loosened, your jacket over your arm, your feet grateful to be released from the pinching shoes. The street takes you again, the same street you walked this morning, but different now, darker, more dangerous, filled with the crowds of people leaving their own workplaces. You merge with them, one among thousands, your body carrying the marks of your labour, just as surely as the dock worker's back carries his. You are tired, so tired, and tomorrow you will do it all again. That is what work is, that is what life is, that is what this city demands of you, and you give it because you have no choice. Morning's labour has carved a hollow in you, a space that demands to be filled, and now as the sun reaches its zenith, you must confront the question that comes every day at this hour, the question of what you will put into that hollow to keep yourself moving through the hours that remain. Food is not simply food here. It is a calculation, a compromise, a choice between competing needs that all press on you with equal urgency. You have perhaps a few pennies left from yesterday, or from this morning's work if you were lucky enough to find it, and you must decide how to spend them in a way that will carry you through to evening without leaving you with nothing for tomorrow. The sources of food are many, each with its own economy, its own risks, its own calculus of value. If you brought something from home, you reach now into your pocket or your bag and withdraw a small parcel wrapped in cloth or paper, its contents known to you before you even open it because they are the same every day. A piece of bread, maybe, dense and dark, the kind that fills the stomach without quite satisfying the hunger. A bit of cheese if you were fortunate enough to afford it yesterday, its edges hardening, its flavour sharpening as it ages. Perhaps a piece of cold meat saved from a better day, its fat congealed into a white layer that you scrape off with your teeth before you eat. The food is cold, always cold, because there is no fire here to warm it, no kitchen to prepare it, no luxury of hot meals for people like you. The taste is familiar, so familiar that you barely notice it anymore. The bread has a faint sourness, the beginning of the process that will turn it into something else if you do not eat it soon. The cheese is dry, crumbling as you bite, its saltiness a sharp contrast to the blandness of the bread. The meat, if you have it, carries the taste of smoke and salt, the preservatives that kept it edible for days or weeks. You chew slowly, deliberately, making each mouthful last, because this food is all you have and you do not know when you will have more. But perhaps you did not bring food. Perhaps you have a penny or two and you must decide where to spend it. The street offers choices, each one calling to you with its smell, its sizzle, its promise of warmth and flavour. The hot corn cart is there, its ears of corn roasted over a charcoal fire, their kernels bursting with moisture, their smell carrying for blocks on the afternoon air. The oyster stand shucks them fresh, the briny smell of the sea mixing with the vinegar and pepper that customers add. The pie cart offers pasties filled with meat or fruit, their crusts golden brown, their steam escaping through small slits cut into the top. Your stomach clenches at the smells, demands that you choose, that you spend, that you give yourself this small pleasure, but you must calculate, a penny for an ear of corn, and you will be full for an hour, maybe two, a penny for 3 oysters, and the hunger will return quickly. But the taste will stay with you longer. 2 pennies for a pie, and you will have nothing left for tonight, for the rent, for the other needs that press on you. You stand there, your penny warm in your hand, and you weigh the options the way you weigh everything in this life, with the knowledge that every choice closes other choices, that every penny spent is a penny that cannot be spent again. You find a place to eat. There is no table, no chair, no shelter from the sun or the rain or the eyes of passers-by. You squat against a wall, your back to the brick, your food in your lap, and you eat as quickly as you can without choking, because eating in the open is a risk, an invitation to those who might want what you have. The food is gone in minutes, sometimes seconds, and you are left with the taste in your mouth and the knowledge that you must do it all again tomorrow. The time you have for eating is not your own. It is granted by the foreman, by the nature of the work, by the accident of where you find yourself at midday 10 minutes. Sometimes 5, just enough to put something in your stomach before you must return to the labour that waits. You eat with your eyes on the clock if there is a clock, on the sun if there is not, measuring the minutes as carefully as you measure the food. To take too long is to risk being noticed, being marked, being replaced. So you eat, and you rise, and you go back, and the meal becomes a memory almost before it is finished. But there is something in the eating that transcends the calculation, the hurry, the discomfort. This food, whatever it is yours. You earned it with your labour, with the sweat of your body, with the hours of your life that you gave up in exchange for it. It is the direct product of your work, the fuel that will allow you to continue working, the reward that makes the work bearable. You taste it with an attention that you give to nothing else, because in this moment, this small moment of consumption, you are doing something that is purely for yourself. The flavour, even if it is simple, even if it is plain, is the flavour of survival, and you savour it the way a man savours the last few minutes of sunlight before the night closes in. For some, there is another kind of eating, another kind of pause, if you are lucky enough to work near one of the city's parks, or if your path takes you through them on the way to somewhere else. You might find yourself confronted with a different world entirely. The green appears suddenly a shock after the endless brown and grey of the streets. Grass, real grass, growing in a way that seems almost impossible in this city of stone and mud. Trees with leaves that move in the wind, that cast shadows on the ground, that provide a roof of green between you and the sun. The sky opens up here. No longer a narrow strip between buildings, but a vast dome that stretches from horizon to horizon. You stop at the edge of the park, unable to go further for a moment, because the sight of it is almost too much to process. Your eyes, accustomed to the close press of walls and crowds, do not know how to handle this space. They wander, searching for boundaries, for limits, and find none. The green spreads out before you, punctuated by trees and paths and the distant gleam of water, and you feel something shift inside you, something that you cannot name but that you recognise as the opposite of the constant pressure you carry everywhere. On the grass, people are doing things you can hardly believe. Families sit on blankets, their baskets open, their food spread out in a way that seems impossibly lavish. Children run, actually run, their legs pumping, their voices raised in shouts that are not cries of warning or distress, but simply the sound of joy. Couples walk arm in arm, their heads close together, their steps slow and aimless, going nowhere in particular because they have the luxury of going nowhere. You watch them and you feel a distance that is not measured in feet but in years, in lifetimes, in the unbridgeable gap between their world and yours. You are not welcome here, not really. No one will stop you from entering, from walking the paths, from sitting for a moment on the grass. But you know, with a knowledge that goes deeper than words, that you do not belong. This place was made for them, for the people with the blankets and the baskets and the slow, aimless walks. You are here on sufferance, a visitor from another country, allowed to look but not to stay. You feel the eyes of a woman on you as you pass, her glance taking in your clothes, your posture, the dirt on your hands, and you see her look away, dismissing you, placing you in the category of things that are not her concern. But you sit anyway, just for a moment, just at the edge, where the grass meets the path. You lower yourself slowly, your body protesting the unfamiliar motion, and you feel the grass beneath you. It is soft, softer than anything you have felt in months or years, a cushion of green that yields to your weight and then rises again when you shift. It is cool, the temperature of the ground moderated by the plants that cover it, and you feel the coolness seeping through your clothes, reaching your skin, doing something that feels almost like healing. It is slightly damp, the moisture of the earth rising through the blades, and it makes you think of things you have not thought about in a long time. Fields, farms, the countryside you left behind, or that your parents left behind, the memory of a different life passed down like an heirloom you never quite believed in. The grass tickles your hands where they rest on it. Each blade, a tiny touch, a small sensation that you would not notice anywhere else, but that here, in this place of green and quiet, becomes almost overwhelming. You run your fingers through it, feeling the individual blades, the way they bend and spring back, the way they leave their scent on your skin. The smell is something you had forgotten, the smell of growing things, of life that is not human or animal, but plant green and patient, and utterly indifferent to the city that surrounds it. You stay as long as you dare, 5 minutes, maybe 10. long enough for your body to absorb some of the cool, some of the soft, some of the green, long enough for the tension in your shoulders to ease, just slightly, just enough to notice. Then you stand because you must, because the work waits, because the city calls you back. You brush the grass from your clothes, leaving small green fragments on the fabric, and you walk away without looking back. But at the edge of the park, you stop, you turn. You look, the green is there, still there, waiting for the people who belong to it. You will come back tomorrow if you can. You will sit again. For 5 minutes, for 10, it is not much. It is something. The street offers other pauses, other moments stolen from the day. Music, for instance. It comes from somewhere ahead, the sound of an instrument carried on the air, and you follow it without deciding to, your feet turning toward the sound before your mind has registered what you are doing. A man with a violin stands against a wall, his eyes closed, his bow moving across the strings in a way that seems effortless, though you know it is not. The music fills the street, rising above the noise of the crowd, claiming a small space of its own in the chaos. People gather around him, a loose circle of listeners, their faces changed by the music, softened, opened. You join them, standing at the edge, and you listen. The quality of the music does not matter. It could be a symphony or a folk song, a tune you know or one you have never heard. What matters is the pause, the moment of stillness in the middle of the moving day. For these few minutes, you are not working, not walking, not calculating or worrying or planning. You are listening. The music enters you, fills some of the hollow spaces, reminds you that there is more to life than the endless cycle of labour and sleep. When it ends, you clap with the others, a scattering of applause that seems inadequate, but is all you have. The man passes his hat, and you drop in a penny if you have one, because this is how it works. This is the transaction, the exchange of music for money. But even if you give nothing, you have received something, and you carry it with you as you walk away. Other performers offer other pauses. A man swallows a sword, the blade disappearing into his throat, and the crowd gasps and laughs and drops coins into his cup. A woman balances on a rope stretched between two buildings, her body swaying, her arms extended, and you hold your breath with everyone else, waiting for the fall that never comes. A boy twists himself into shapes that seem impossible, his joints bending in directions they were not meant to go, and you watch with a mixture of wonder and discomfort, knowing that this flexibility is purchased at a price you cannot see. The tavern doors open as you pass, releasing a wave of sound and smell that stops you in your tracks. Laughter, loud and careless. The laughter of men who have money to spend and time to spend it. The smell of beer and whiskey, warm and yeasty, a smell that promises escape, forgetting the temporary relief from everything that presses on you. You stand at the door for a moment, looking in. The bar is crowded. Men lined up 3 deep, their faces flushed, their voices raised. You could go in, you have a penny, maybe 2. You could buy a drink, just one, and for a few minutes you could be one of them, laughing, forgetting, part of something larger than your own small struggle. But you do not go in. You know what happens to men who spend their pennies on drink. You have seen them, the ones who stand on street corners begging, the ones who sleep in doorways, the ones who disappeared from the docks one day and never came back. The drink takes everything, gives nothing, leaves you with nothing but the memory of forgetting and the need to forget again. You turn away, and the laughter follows you for a block before it fades into the general noise. The church bells ring, their sound carrying over the city, reaching into streets and alleys and rooms where the bells themselves cannot go. You stop and listen, as you always do, because the bells are a connection to something larger, something that exists beyond the immediate press of survival. They call you to prayer, to reflection, to the consideration of things that are not of this world. You do not go to church, not often, not anymore. But you listen, and for the duration of the ringing you allow yourself to think about the possibility that there is meaning beyond the daily grind, that somewhere there is a plan, a purpose, a reason for all of this. The news comes to you in fragments, carried on the voices of boys who shout the headlines without understanding them, their words merging with the other sounds of the street until you have to strain to hear extra, Read all about it. A fire in the tenements, a ship sunk in the harbour, a politician accused of stealing. You do not buy the paper, cannot afford the penny, but you listen, picking out the words that matter, storing them away for later use. Information is currency here, as valuable as coins, because knowing what is happening can mean the difference between finding work and missing it, between being in the right place at the right time and being somewhere else. The bulletin boards on walls and fences offer more information posted for anyone to read. You stop at each one, scanning the notices with the practiced speed of someone who has learned to read quickly and to extract what matters. Wanted, men for the docks, apply at the gate by 6. Lost, a child answers to the name of Mary, reward offered. Auction, household goods, Saturday at noon, everything must go. You read them all, filing away the ones that might matter, ignoring the ones that do not. Somewhere in these notices might be your chance, your opportunity, the break you have been waiting for. You cannot afford to miss it. The conversations around you are another source of information, if you know how to listen. Men talking outside the tavern, their voices lowered, their heads together. Women at the market, exchanging news while they shop. Children playing in the street, repeating things they have heard without understanding them. You move through these conversations like a ghost present, but unnoticed, picking up the fragments that drift your way. A job at the new building on Broadway. A man selling bread cheap on Mulberry Street. A riot starting in the 5 Points. You take it all in, sift it, store what might be useful in this city. Knowledge is survival, and you cannot afford to be ignorant. The afternoon wears on, and your body begins to tell you things you do not want to hear. The morning's energy, the false vigour of the new day, has long since drained away, leaving behind something heavier, slower, more resistant to the demands you place on it. Your shoulders, which carried the weight so easily at 8, now complain with every lift. Your back, which straightened without thought at 9, now remains slightly bent. The muscles locked in a position that approximates rest but is not rest. Your feet, which have carried you over cobblestones and through mud and up and down stairs for hours, now send messages of pain with every step, messages you acknowledge and then ignore because there is nothing else to do with them. The pain accumulates like interest, compounding with each passing hour. What was a small ache in your knee at midday becomes a sharp throb by 2. A constant companion by 3, the blister on your heel, noticed and dismissed hours ago, now demands attention with every step, a small fire that spreads with each impact. Your hands, if your work involves them, have lost the fine control they had this morning, fumbling at tasks that were easy when the day was young. You adjust, compensate, find new ways to do the same things because stopping is not an option. Your attention wanders, despite your efforts to hold it. The mind, like the body, grows tired, and the tired mind seeks escape where it can find it. You catch yourself staring at nothing. Your thoughts drifting to places far from here, to memories of other days, other lives, other possibilities. A sound recalls something from childhood. A smell brings back a moment you had forgotten, and for a few seconds you are somewhere else, someone else. Then the foreman shouts, or a wagon passes too close, and you are back present again, your attention restored by the immediate demands of survival. But the drifting comes more often now, the escapes more frequent, and you know that you are approaching the limit of what you can do today. The mistakes begin. Small ones at first, a miscounted sack, a misplaced tool, a step that is slightly off. Then larger ones, a near fall, a dropped load, a moment of confusion that could have been disaster if luck had not been with you. You notice them, correct them, push them aside, but they accumulate too, adding to the weight you carry, reminding you that every hour of work beyond a certain point is borrowed from tomorrow, from the body's limited reserves. You cannot afford to stop, but you also cannot afford the mistake that will end you, and so you walk a narrow line between exhaustion and disaster, hoping that luck will hold for the few hours that remain. The clock, if you can see one, becomes an obsession. You look at it constantly, measuring the distance between now and the end, calculating how many more loads, how many more steps, how many more minutes you must endure. The hands seem to move slower as the day progresses. each minute stretching into an eternity, each hour lasting longer than the morning ever did. You watch the sun, if you cannot see a clock, tracking its progress across the sky, willing it to move faster, to reach the horizon, to release you from this day. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, the light begins to change. The sun, which has been high and hot, begins its long slide toward the west. The shadows, which have been short and sharp all afternoon, begin to lengthen, reaching out across the streets, claiming more and more of the ground. The air cools, just slightly. The first hint of the evening to come, and in your body, in your tired and aching body, something shifts, a small surge of energy, a last reserve you did not know you had, rises up to meet the coming end. You are not restored, not refreshed, but you are renewed in a small way, given just enough to finish, just enough to make it through the last hour, the last load, the last step. The end comes suddenly, as it always does. One moment you are working, the next you are not. The whistle blows, the foreman waves. The last load is set down, and you straighten and you are done. The day is over. You have survived it. Tomorrow there will be another. But for now, for this small moment, you are free. You stand for a moment, not moving, just feeling the absence of labour, the sudden silence in your muscles where the demand used to be. Then you turn and you walk away. Into the evening, into the night, carrying with you the exhaustion and the small satisfaction of another day survived. The whistle sounds again, but this time it means something different. This time, it is not a call to work, but a release from it. A signal that the day has ended, and you are free to go. Though free is not quite the right word for what you feel as you step away from the machine, from the dock, from the counter, from whatever place has claimed your body for the past 10 or 12 or 14 hours. The sound echoes across the city, answered by other whistles from other factories. A chorus of steam and metal that announces the end of labour for hundreds of thousands of people who will now pour into the streets and begin the journey home. The doors open and they come. A flood of bodies that seems impossible given how many went in this morning. They emerge from every entrance, streaming out like water from a broken dam. Their faces the same faces you saw this morning, but changed now. Worn down, softened by exhaustion into something less than they were. Men with soot on their faces, women with their hair escaping from their caps, children whose small bodies have done work that should have waited years. They merge with the crowds from other factories, from the docks, from the workshops and warehouses, and all the places where people spend their days turning their bodies into money, and together they form a river that flows through the streets in a direction that is always the same. Homeward, the word has meaning here, a specific meaning that has nothing to do with comfort or rest or the promise of ease. Homeward means toward the places where they sleep, the rooms and tenements and shanties where they will spend the few hours before they must do this all over again. The direction is the same for all of them, away from the centres of work and toward the margins where work cannot afford to be. The cheap neighbourhoods where rent is low and life is cheap, and the buildings lean against each other for support. You flow with them, carried by the current, your feet finding the rhythm of the crowd, without your having to think about it. Your body begins the slow process of becoming yours again. It is not a quick transformation, not a sudden release like the whistle that ended your work. It is gradual, almost imperceptible, a loosening of muscles that have been clenched for hours, a softening of the shoulders that have been braced against weight, a straightening of the spine that has been bent to labour. The process takes time, takes walking, takes the simple passage of minutes without the demand of work. By the time you reach your neighbourhood, you will be closer to yourself than you have been all day, though still not close enough, never close enough. The pain does not leave when the work stops. It stays, settles into your body as if it belongs there, as if it has taken up residence and does not intend to move. Your back continues to ache, your feet continue to throb, your hands continue to burn from the friction of tools or ropes or whatever else you handled today. The pain is a reminder, as if you needed one, of what you have done and what you will do again tomorrow. You carry it with you the way you carry your clothes, as something that is part of you that you cannot remove, that you have learnt to live with. The people around you speak, but their words are few and simple. How was it? a man asks, and you answer with a word or two, enough to acknowledge the question, but not enough to require thought. "All right," you say, or "not bad," or "same as always." He nods, says the same about his own day, and you walk on in silence. There is no energy for conversation, no surplus of attention to devote to anything beyond the simple mechanics of walking. The words you exchange are like the small coins you pass to vendors, enough to complete a transaction but not enough to matter. The danger increases as the light fades. The streets that were crowded with workers are now crowded with others, people who did not work today, or who work at night, or who make their living from those who are too tired to defend themselves. You walk faster without deciding to, your eyes moving constantly, scanning the faces around you, the doorways you pass, the alleys that open and close with each step, a group of men ahead standing close together, their eyes on the passing crowd. You cross the street to avoid them, not because they have done anything, but because you have learned that avoidance is better than confrontation. A woman hurries past you, her head down, her steps quick, and you know she is feeling the same fear, the same calculation of risk that you feel. The city changes as you walk, the buildings shifting from the tall facades of commerce to the shorter, darker shapes of housing. The streets narrow, the crowds thin, the sounds become less varied, more concentrated. You are entering your part of the city, the part that belongs to people like you, and the change is visible in everything you see. But sometimes your path takes you through other parts first. Sometimes you must pass through the places where the other half lives. The half that did not work today, or that worked in different ways, in offices and shops and counting houses, and you see them as you pass. See their world spread out before you like a painting. You cannot enter. The buildings here are different. They are taller, cleaner, their facades decorated with stonework and ironwork, and the names of businesses you have never heard of. The streets are wider, the sidewalks smoother, the air itself seems clearer, as if the filth that fills your part of the city cannot reach this far. You walk through this place like a ghost, your worn clothes marking you as someone who does not belong, someone who will be watched until he passes through to the other side. The lamps are being lit. Men with long poles move from lamp to lamp, touching the flame to the gas jet, and the street comes alive with light. It is a soft light, a yellow glow that pools beneath each lamp and spreads outward until it meets the next pool, creating a continuous chain of illumination that transforms the street into something almost theatrical. The people walking here are visible in ways they would not be in your neighbourhood. Their faces clear, their clothes detailed, their expressions readable from a distance. You feel exposed in this light, seen in ways you do not want to be seen, and you keep your head down and your steps quick. The shop windows are galleries of things you will never own. Silk dresses arranged on forms that have no heads, their fabric catching the light and holding it, shimmering in colours that seem to come from another world. China plates painted with scenes of countryside and cottages, stacked in displays that suggest abundance, surplus, the luxury of having more than you need. Jewellery laid out on velvet, each piece catching the light and throwing it back in sparks of colour, rings and necklaces and bracelets that cost more than you will earn in a year, in 10 years, in a lifetime. You stop for a moment, unable to help yourself, and you look. The things in the window look back at you, silent and beautiful and completely indifferent to your existence. The carriages pass, their wheels quieter here than in your part of the city, the streets smoother, the horses better kept. Through the windows you see them, the people who belong to this world, women in dresses that fill the carriage, their hair arranged in ways you cannot imagine achieving, their faces turned toward each other in conversation, laughing at something you cannot hear. Men in dark suits, their hats on their laps, their postures relaxed, their hands holding nothing heavier than a pair of gloves. They are going somewhere, to a theatre, or a dinner, or a party, to places you have heard of but never seen, to lives you cannot imagine living. The carriage passes, and you watch it go, and something rises in you, something that starts in your stomach and spreads upward, a heat that is not quite anger but is related to it, a recognition of the distance between you and them, the impossibility of ever crossing it. But the anger has no place to go. There is no one to direct it at, no one who would accept it or even notice it. The people in the carriage do not see you, would not see you if you stood in front of their horses, would not remember you if you spoke to them. You are not part of their world, not even as an enemy or a threat. You are simply not there. You take a breath, you let it out, and you lower your head and continue walking. The anger settles back into its place, into the space where you keep all the things you cannot change, and you carry it with you as you carry everything else. The neighbourhood you call home has its own character at dusk, a character that is the opposite of the one you just passed through. Here, the fading light is not romantic or beautiful. It is a warning, a signal that the safety of daylight is ending and the dangers of night are beginning. The streets that were full of children an hour ago are emptying now. The children called inside by mothers who know what happens after dark. The vendors who spent the day selling from carts and blankets are packing up, their goods disappearing into bags and boxes, their carts wheeled away to whatever place they are stored until morning. The street is becoming something else, something that belongs to the night. The taverns are opening. All day they have been closed, their doors shut, their windows dark, but now as the light fades they come to life. Light spills from their doorways, the yellow glow of gas lamps and candles, and with it comes sound, the noise of men who have been working all day and are now ready to drink. Laughter loud and rough, the laughter of men who are trying to forget. Arguments, voices rising, the threat of violence hanging in the air. The smell of beer and whiskey and unwashed bodies drifts out and mixes with the smells of the street, adding another layer to the complex odour of the neighbourhood. The women appear on the corners, appearing as if from nowhere, though you know they have been there all along, waiting for the light to fade. They are painted, their faces rushed, their lips red, their clothes bright in ways that would be ridiculous in daylight, but that work here in the dimness as signals of what they offer. Their eyes meet yours as you pass, direct and unashamed, asking a question you do not want to answer. Some of them are young, too young, their faces still carrying the roundness of childhood. Some are old, older than they should be, their faces lined by years of this work. They stand and they wait and they watch, and you look away because looking too long is a kind of promise you do not intend to keep. The streets that were their playground all day, the only playground they have ever known, are empty of them now. Their mothers have pulled them inside, closed the doors, locked them in rooms that are too small and too crowded and too full of the day's accumulated exhaustion. Behind the walls you can hear them, the sounds of children being children, crying and laughing and arguing, the ordinary noises of family life compressed into spaces, never meant for it. You are glad they are inside. The night is not for children, not here. The police are present, as they always are at this hour. You hear their whistles, sharp and authoritative, cutting through the other sounds of the street. You see their uniforms, dark and official, moving through the crowd with a purpose that is never quite clear. They are not here to protect you. You learned that long ago. They are here to maintain order, to enforce the rules that keep the city running, and if that means clearing a corner, or breaking up a crowd, or arresting someone who has done nothing wrong, they will do it without hesitation. You avoid them when you can, step aside when you cannot, and never meet their eyes. Finally, you reach your door. It is the same door you left this morning, the same door you have passed through 1,000 times, but it looks different now in the fading light, familiar and strange at the same time. You put your hand on it, feel its surface under your palm, the wood worn smooth by generations of hands just like yours. You push, and it opens, and you step inside. The hallway is darker than the street, and you stand for a moment, letting your eyes adjust. The smells hit you immediately, the accumulated smells of cooking and sweat and waste and all the other things that collect in places where too many people live too close together. They are familiar, these smells, so familiar that you barely notice them anymore, but after a day away they register for a moment before fading back into the background of your perception. The stairs groan under your weight as you climb, each step announcing your presence to everyone in the building. You pass doors behind which you hear the sounds of other lives, other families, other versions of the same struggle you are living. A baby cries, A man coughs. A woman's voice rises in anger and then falls again. The sounds blend together into a kind of music, the music of this building, the music of your life. Your door is at the end of the hall. You open it and step inside, and the room receives you. It is the same room you left this morning, the same walls, the same floor, the same few pieces of furniture. But it is transformed now by the presence of others. The people who share this space with you are here, some of them sitting or lying or moving slowly through the small tasks of evening. They look up when you enter, acknowledge you with a nod or a word, and then return to what they were doing. You are home, you are safe, at least for now. The removal of your clothing is a ritual, a slow peeling away of the layers that have protected you and constrained you all day. The shoes come first, and the relief is immediate, a physical pleasure that approaches pain as your feet expand into the freedom they have been denied. The jacket follows, heavy with the day's accumulated filth, and you hang it on the nail where it lives. The shirt, damp with sweat, clings to your skin as you pull it over your head, and the air on your bare chest feels cool and strange. Each piece removed is a small liberation, a step closer to the person you are when you are not working. The others in the room are doing the same, or have already done it, their bodies settling into the postures of rest. A woman sits on the edge of her bed, her feet bare, her hair loose, her eyes closed. A man lies on his back, his arm over his face, his chest rising and falling in the rhythm of exhaustion. A child curls against its mother, already half asleep, its thumb in its mouth. The room is crowded, more crowded than it was this morning, because now everyone is here, all the people who left at dawn returning to the only place they have to return to. The conversation is minimal, the words few. Any work at the docks tomorrow? Someone asks, and you shake your head. You do not know. The factory on Broome is hiring, someone else says, or so they heard. Bread has gone up again, a woman reports. Another penny for the same loaf. The information is exchanged, stored, filed away for tomorrow's decisions. Then the talking stops, because there is nothing more to say, because everyone is too tired to say it, because the silence is easier than speech. The door is closed. The lock, such as it is turned. The sounds of the street continue outside, muffled now by walls and distance, but they are separate from you, outside you no longer demanding your attention. For the next few hours, until sleep takes, the room is not much, is barely anything at all, but it is yours, or as much yours as anything in this city can be. You lean against the wall, or lie on your bed, and you let yourself feel, for the first time all day, the simple fact of not working. But even here, even now, the calculations continue. The fuel, the light, the resources that will carry you through the night and into you have perhaps a few pieces of coal left, perhaps a candle stub, perhaps nothing at all. You must decide how to use them, how to balance the need for warmth and light against the need to have something left for tomorrow. The coal is in a small bucket by the stove, if you have a stove, or in a bag under the bed, or scattered on the floor where it fell when you last used it. You count the pieces, feel their weight, estimate how many hours of heat they represent. The calculation is grim, as it always is. Not enough for the whole night. Not enough for warmth and cooking both. You must choose, must prioritize, must decide what matters most. If you have a fire to build, you build it now going through the same motions you went through this morning, but with different purpose. This fire is not for work, not for the demands of the day. It is for survival, for the simple need to stay warm through the hours of darkness. You place the coal carefully, feed it slowly, coax the flames with the attention of someone who knows exactly what each piece costs. The fire catches, grows, spreads its warmth through the small room, and you feel it on your skin like a gift. The light is a separate problem. Everyone needs it to see, to move, to perform the small tasks of evening, but no one wants to pay for it. The compromise is a single candle, its flame small and uncertain, placed in the centre of the room where it can serve everyone a little. Its light is barely enough, casting more shadows than it banishes, leaving corners dark and faces half hidden. But it is something, is better than nothing, and you gather around it as if it were a fire, as if its small warmth could supplement the meagre heat from the stove. The faces around the candle are softer than they were in daylight. The flickering flame smooths the lines, softens the edges, makes everyone look younger or older or just different, harder to read. You look at them, these people who share your life without sharing your name, and you feel something that might be called connection, or might just be the recognition that you are all here, all together, all facing the same night and the same tomorrow. No one speaks. The silence is comfortable, or as comfortable as silence can be, in a room full of strangers who are not quite strangers. The candle burns down, inch by inch, and you watch it with an attention that would seem obsessive anywhere else. Each minute of light is a minute of something you have paid for, a minute that you will not have tomorrow. You calculate as you watch, converting flame into time, time into money, money into the bread you will need to buy. The candle is not just light, it is tomorrow's breakfast, tomorrow's chance at work, tomorrow's survival. You watch it burn, and you think about what you will do when it is gone. The flame flickers, gutters, recovers, flickers again. You know the signs. It is almost over. The wick is short, the wax is low, the light that has held the darkness at bay for these few hours is about to surrender. You watch the final moments with a kind of attention you give to nothing else, because this small death matters in ways that are hard to explain, but that you feel in your bones. The flame shrinks, becomes a tiny blue point, and then it is gone. The darkness rushes in to fill the space the light has left. It is complete, absolute, the kind of darkness that makes you doubt whether your eyes are open or closed. For a moment there is nothing but black and the sounds of breathing, your own and others, the small noises of bodies settling into sleep. Then, gradually, your eyes adjust, or your imagination fills the void, and you begin to see shapes again, the faint outlines of windows, the deeper black of furniture, the slight movement of someone shifting in their sleep. The night has claimed you, the day is over. Tomorrow is coming, but for now, for these hours, you are suspended in darkness, in the brief pause between one day's labour and the next. You lie down, or you lean back, or you curl into whatever position allows you to fit into the space that is yours. The warmth of the fire, if there was one, is fading. The cold is returning, seeping in through the walls, through the floor, through the thin blanket. That is all you have. You pull it tighter, curl smaller. Try to conserve whatever heat your body still produces. Tomorrow you will do this all again. You will wake, you will work, you will walk, you will return to this room and this candle and this darkness. The thought should be depressing, should be unbearable, but it is not. It is simply what is, what has always been, what will always be. You accept it the way you accept the cold and the hunger and the pain as part of life, as the price of being alive in this city at this time. The night deepens around you, and you sink into it, into sleep, into the brief oblivion that is the only rest you get. Tomorrow is coming, but tonight, for now, you are here and you are safe, and that is enough. The darkness has settled fully over the city now, and with it comes the time for the meal that will carry you through the night. Dinner in this place is not the grand affair that others might imagine when they think of evening meals, not the gathering of family around a table laden with food and conversation. It is something simpler and more urgent, a repetition of the morning's ritual, but with less hope, less energy, less of everything except the basic need to put something into your body before you surrender to sleep. The food, if you have any, is likely the same as what you ate this morning. Bread, perhaps, the same dense dark loaf that you have been eating for days. Its crust harder now, its interior drier, its flavour fading with each passing hour. A bowl of porridge, if you have the means to cook it, thin and watery, stretching a handful of grain into something that fills the stomach without quite satisfying the hunger. A piece of salt pork, if you were lucky enough to afford it, its saltiness so intense that it makes you thirsty, which is maybe the point, because thirst can be answered with water while hunger demands more. Or perhaps there is nothing. Perhaps the day's work did not yield enough for food, and you will go to sleep hungry and hope that tomorrow is better. If you share this space with others, and you almost certainly do, the meal becomes a negotiation, a small drama of distribution that plays out in the flickering light of a single candle. Who gets how much? The question is never spoken, but it is always present, hovering in the air as the food is divided. The man who worked the hardest today, perhaps he deserves more. The child who is still growing, perhaps she needs more. The woman who is nursing, perhaps her portion should be larger. These calculations happen in silence, in glances, in the way hands move toward the food and then stop, waiting for someone else to move first. There is no system, no rule, only the constant negotiation of people who must live together and who know that fairness, whatever that means, is the only thing that keeps the peace you eat in silence. All of you, because there is no... The day has taken everything, has drained the possibility of conversation from your bodies, along with the strength and the will and the hope. The only sounds are the sounds of eating, the soft, wet noises of mouths working, the occasional clink of a spoon against a bowl, the swallow that seems louder than it should be in the quiet room. These sounds are intimate in a way that speech is not, revealing the body's needs, its demands, its simple animal existence. You hear them, and you do not hear them, because they are as familiar as your own breath, as much a part of this room as the walls and the floor. Any food that remains after the meal must be saved. This is not a choice, but a necessity, a calculation that extends beyond this moment into the tomorrow that is always coming. The bread, if there is any left, is wrapped in cloth and placed somewhere safe, somewhere the rats cannot reach, somewhere the others in the room will not find it in the night when hunger wakes them. The logic of saving is a logic of suspicion, of knowing that everyone here is hungry, and that hunger makes people do things they would not otherwise do. You hide your food not because you are cruel, but because you must, because tomorrow you will need it, and there will be no more until you work again. And even after you have eaten, even after you have saved what can be saved, you are still hungry. The hunger never really leaves, never fully departs. It is a constant companion, a presence in your body that you have learned to live with the way you learn to live with pain or cold or any of the other conditions of existence. You do not complain about it because there is no point, no one to complain to, no remedy to be had. It is simply there, part of you as familiar as your own heartbeat. You have learned to ignore it, to push it to the background of your awareness, to function despite its constant presence. But it is always there, waiting, reminding you that you are alive, and that being alive means needing things you cannot have. If you have family here, if the people in this room are not just strangers sharing space, but your own flesh and blood, the night brings something else with it, a different kind of weight, a different kind of presence. You look at them now in the dim light, and you feel things that are too complex to name. The child, your child, lies on a pile of rags in the corner, her eyes half closed, her breathing already deepening towards sleep. You look at her and you feel everything at once, a flood of emotion that is too much to contain. Pride that she is alive, that she has survived another day in this city that kills children every day. Worry that tomorrow will be the day she does not survive, that the fever or the accident or the simple grinding poverty will finally take her. Despair that this is all you can give her, this room, this food, this life of constant struggle. Love, so much love. A love that is painful because it is helpless, because it cannot protect her from anything. You look at her and you feel all of these things at once, and then you look away because feeling them too long is more than you can bear. Your wife, your husband, your partner in this life sits beside you, close enough to touch but not touching. There is nothing to say. The day has used up all the words, all the energy, all the possibility of connection. You sit together in silence, two bodies that have been through the same struggle, that know the same exhaustion, that share the same fear for tomorrow. Sometimes your eyes meet just for a moment, and in that moment there is a communication that words could never achieve. You know what the other is thinking, what the other is feeling, because it is the same as what you are thinking and feeling. You are the same you and this person divided into two bodies but joined by everything else. The silence between you is not empty, it is full. So full that speech would only diminish it. The weight of responsibility settles on you in the darkness. A weight that never lifts, never eases, never gives you a moment's rest. You are the one who must provide, must protect, must keep this small unit together against everything that threatens to tear it apart. The thought is always there, even in the moments when you are not thinking about it, a constant pressure at the edge of your awareness. If you fail, they fail. If you die, they die. The responsibility is absolute, and it never ends. Not even in sleep, because in sleep you dream of failing, dream of losing them, dream of all the things you fear most. But love is there too, in the small things, the tiny gestures that pass between you when there are no words. A hand reaching out to touch a shoulder just for a moment. Just to say I am here, a head leaning against another head, the simple contact of bodies that need contact, that need to know they are not alone. A foot in the darkness, finding another foot and resting against it. These are the words you speak when you have no words left, the language of bodies that have been through everything together and need no other language. The fear that lives beneath everything, beneath the silence and the touch and the love itself, is the fear of loss. Not your own death, not really, that you could face, have faced, will face when it comes, but their death, the death of this child, this partner, these people who are more you than you are yourself. That fear is constant, a presence in the room as real as the walls, as real. It is what keeps you going when you want to stop, what makes you get up in the morning when getting up seems impossible. It is the core of you, the thing that defines you more than anything else. You are the one who must keep them alive, and so you do. But not everyone stays inside. Some go out, or are forced to hear what goes on outside through walls too thin to keep anything out. The city does not sleep, does not rest, does not stop its endless motion just because darkness has fallen. If anything, it becomes more itself, more intense, more concentrated in its pleasures and its dangers. The tavern next door is loud tonight, the sound of it penetrating the walls and filling your room with the noise of other people's escape. You hear the laughter, the kind of laughter that comes from drink and from the temporary forgetting that drink provides. You hear the singing, the ragged chorus of men who cannot sing but do not care, their voices rising and falling in songs you half remember from somewhere. You hear the glasses, the constant clink and clatter of drinking, of consumption, of people spending money you do not have on pleasures you cannot afford. The sound is close, so close that it seems almost to be in the room with you, and you lie in the darkness and listen and feel the distance between you and them, between your life and the lives of people who can afford to forget. The street outside provides its own entertainment, though entertainment is not quite the right word for what you hear through the walls. The drunks argue, their voices rising in anger, the words slurred, but the intent clear. A man and a woman, lovers or strangers, exchange words that are too quiet to hear, but whose tone carries meaning. The police whistle blows, sharp and urgent, and you hear running footsteps, more shouts, the sound of something that might be violence, or might be nothing at all. A woman laughs, a professional laugh, the laugh of someone whose business is laughter, and you know what she is and what she does, and you turn away from the thought, because thinking about it leads places you do not want to go. If you live in the right part of the city, or the wrong part depending on how you look at it, you might hear the theatres. Not see them, not ever see them, but hear them. The distant music drifting through the night air, reaching your ears through windows and walls and all the barriers that separate you from the people inside. The music is beautiful, or would be if you could hear it clearly, if it were not distorted by distance and by the other sounds that compete with it. You strain to hear it, to hold on to it, because it is something from another world, a world where people gather to listen to music, to watch plays, to spend their evenings in pursuits that have nothing to do with survival. The music fades, returns, fades again, and you listen until it is gone, and there is nothing left but the ordinary sounds of the street. The preachers are out tonight, as they are every night, standing on corners with their Bibles and their voices raised to heaven. Save your souls, they cry, repent before it is too late, the end is near. You hear them through the walls, their words distorted but their passion unmistakable. And you want to laugh, want to go to the window and shout back at them, tell them that you do not care about your soul, that your soul can wait, that it is your body that needs saving, your body that is dying by inches every day, but you do not. You lie in the darkness and you listen and you feel nothing, because feeling is a luxury and you have no luxuries left. The entertainment of the poor is the entertainment of listening, of overhearing, of taking what you can from the edges of other people's pleasures. You learn to find satisfaction in small things, in a snatch of music caught through an open window, in a moment of laughter from the street, in the memory of a song your mother sang when you were small. It is not much, but it is something, and something is better than nothing. In this city, you learn to take what you can get. The night brings dangers too, dangers that are different from the dangers of the day. The day's dangers are the dangers of work, of accident, of the boss's eye and the foreman's whip. The night's dangers are the dangers of darkness, of the things that come out when the light goes away. The door is locked, or as locked as it can be. The lock is a simple thing, a piece of metal that barely deserves the name. But it is something, a barrier between you and whatever might be outside. You lie in the darkness, and you listen to the sounds of the building, trying to distinguish between the ordinary sounds and the sounds that might mean trouble. A step on the stairs that is too heavy, too slow, a voice that is too loud, too close, a hand on the door, testing, trying. These are the sounds that make your heart stop, that make you hold your breath and wait, and pray that whatever is out there will go. The fear of fire is constant, a presence in your mind that never fully leaves. You have seen what fire does to buildings like this, to rooms like this, to people like you. You have heard the stories, have seen the ashes where a building once stood, have known people who went to sleep one night and never woke up because a candle tipped, or a stove sparked, or a neighbour was careless. You check the candle before you sleep, make sure it is safe, make sure nothing is near it that could catch. But you know that safety is an illusion, that fire does not care about your precautions, that it can come from anywhere at any time and take everything in minutes. You lie in the darkness and you listen for the smell of smoke, for the crackle that should not be there, for the sounds that would mean the end. The cough from across the room is worse tonight. You have been hearing it for days, weeks, a wet, deep cough that shakes the whole body and leaves the cougher gasping for air. You know what it might mean. Everyone knows consumption, they call it. The disease that takes more people in this city than anything else, that fills the graveyards with the young and the old and everyone in between. You listen to the cough, and you hold your breath, as if not breathing could protect you from the tiny droplets that carry the sickness through the air. You know it does not work, that you have already breathed the same air 1,000 times, that if the sickness is coming for you, it will come no matter what you do. But you hold your breath anyway, because holding your breath is something you can do, is a small act of resistance against the forces that are always trying to kill you. The police are another danger, a different kind of danger. They come at night sometimes, kicking in doors, dragging people out, asking questions that have no right answers. You have done nothing wrong, but that does not matter. In this city, being poor is wrong. Being in the wrong place is wrong. Being alive when someone else wants you dead is wrong. You listen for their footsteps, their whistles, their voices raised in authority. If they come, there is nothing you can do. You lie still and hope they pass you by. And beneath all these specific fears, the general fear of tomorrow, will there be work? Will the child wake with fever? Will the cough be worse? Will today be the day that nothing gets better, that everything gets worse, that the thin thread you are hanging from finally breaks? These questions have no answers, cannot have answers until tomorrow comes. You lie in the darkness and you ask them anyway, because asking is what you do, is the only thing you can do when the future is a blank wall you cannot see beyond. In the darkness, some turn to other things. Religion, faith, the belief that there is something beyond this life, something that gives it meaning. You might not believe, might have stopped believing long ago when the world showed you what it really is. But in the night, in the darkness, belief can creep back in, can find the cracks in your certainty and plant itself there. You might pray. Not the formal prayers of church, not the words you were taught as a child, but something simpler, more direct. A few words spoken into the darkness, a request, a plea, a hope. Let tomorrow be better, let the child live, let there be work. You do not know who you are praying to, do not know if anyone is listening, but you pray anyway because praying is something you can do, is a small act of hope in a world that gives you no reason to hope. The objects are there if you have them. A cross on the wall, its shape barely visible in the darkness, a small icon in your pocket, worn smooth by years of handling, a Bible on the shelf, its pages soft from reading, its words known by heart even if you cannot read them. These objects are not just things. They are connections, links to something larger than yourself, reminders that you are not alone, that others have suffered and survived, and found meaning in their suffering. You touch them sometimes, in the darkness, run your fingers over their surfaces, and feel something that might be comfort, or might just be the familiar sensation of objects you have held 1,000 times before. The church bells ring the hours, their sound carrying over the city, reaching into every room, every alley, every corner where people lie awake in the darkness. You hear them and you count, measuring the night's progress, knowing how many hours until dawn, until the day begins again. The bells also remind you of something else, something beyond the counting of hours. They remind you that there is a world beyond this one, a world where time means something different, where suffering has a purpose, where the injustices of this life will be corrected in the next. You do not know if you believe this, cannot afford to believe it. But the sound of the bells makes you want to believe, makes you feel that belief is possible. If you belong to a church, if you have managed to maintain that connection, you know that tomorrow someone might come. A visitor, a helper, someone from the congregation who brings food or just company, who sits with you for a while and reminds you that you are part of something larger than this room. The thought is comforting, a small light in the darkness, a reason to get through the night. You hold on to it as you drift towards sleep, the promise of tomorrow's visit, the knowledge that someone cares, that someone will come. But the doubt is always there, always present, even in the moments of belief. If God is good, why is the world so cruel? If God is powerful, why does he let children die? If God is just, why do the rich feast while the poor starve? These questions have no answers, have never had answers, will never have answers. You ask them anyway, in the darkness. The silence is the answer maybe. The silence is all there is, but you believe anyway, or try to believe, because the alternative is a darkness that has no light at all. The night deepens, the sounds from the street grow quieter, the taverns closing, the last drunks staggering home, the preachers exhausted from their shouting. The room settles into its nighttime rhythm, the breathing of sleepers, the occasional cough, the small sounds of bodies shifting in the darkness. You lie among them, one among many, and you feel the night wrap itself around you like a blanket, heavy and dark and full of all the things you cannot see. Sleep comes slowly, in fragments, in moments of unconsciousness that grow longer and deeper, until finally you are under. Finally you have surrendered to the oblivion that is the only rest you get. In sleep there is no hunger, no fear, no weight of responsibility. In sleep you are free as you will ever be. The darkness holds you, protects you, hides you from everything that waits in the light. For these few hours you are safe. For these few hours you are nothing and no one, just a body breathing in the dark, waiting for the day that will come whether you are ready or not. The day has retreated now, fully and completely, and in its absence something else rises to fill the space it has left. The body, which has been pushed and pulled and demanded of all day, finally has a moment to speak, and what it says is not comfortable to hear. You lie on your back, or on your side, or in whatever position the crowded space allows, and you begin to take inventory of yourself in a way that was impossible during the hours of labour. The pain that was background noise all day now steps forward to claim your attention, each ache and throb demanding to be acknowledged. Your feet are the loudest voices, as they always are. The blisters that formed hours ago that you felt form and then ignored, now pulse with a heat that seems to have its own heartbeat. You can feel each one individually, can map them by their location and intensity. The one on the heel that came from a shoe that never quite fit, the one on the ball of the foot that developed during the long hours of standing, the one on the little toe that you do not even remember getting, but that is there now, insistent and painful. Between the blisters, the rest of your feet ache with a deep bone weariness that no amount of rest will fully cure, because tomorrow you will do it all again. Your knees join the chorus, their complaint a dull ache that radiates up into your thighs and down into your shins. They have been bent and straightened 10,000 times today, have carried your weight up and down stairs and ladders and uneven ground, have absorbed the shock of each step on cobblestones that seem designed to punish the joints. You flex them slightly, testing, and they respond with a stiffness that tells you they have not yet forgiven the day's demands. The ache will be there in the morning too, will be there when you rise and begin again, will be there until the day you finally stop rising. Your back speaks in a language of its own, a complex dialect of tightness and strain, and the particular pain that comes from hours of bending and lifting and carrying. The muscles along your spine have been in constant tension, holding you upright against the pull of gravity and the weight of whatever you carried. Now, in the stillness, they begin to release, slowly and reluctantly, and the release brings its own kind of pain, a burning sensation as blood returns to places that have been compressed all day. You try to find a position that eases it, shifting slightly, adjusting, but every position brings its own complaints, and you settle finally for the one that hurts least. Your hands, if you worked with them today, are a separate country of pain. The fingers that gripped and pulled and twisted are stiff now, reluctant to bend, their joints swollen with the day's labour. The palms, if you worked without gloves, are raw in places, the skin rubbed thin by contact with rough materials. You flex them slowly, feeling each finger respond with its own small protest, and you remember what they did today. Every lift and pull and twist, every moment of contact between your flesh and the world. The muscles in your arms and legs have not yet learned that the day is over. They continue to contract and release in small involuntary movements, twitches that you cannot control, remnants of the labour that has become part of them. You feel them jumping under your skin, these small rebellions of tissue that refuse to accept that rest has come. They will continue for hours. These twitches will continue even into sleep, because the body does not know how to stop, does not understand that the work has ended. Your skin remembers everything. It remembers the scratch of coarse fabric against your neck, the way your collar rubbed with each turn of your head. It remembers the sun on your face if you worked outside, the heat of it, the way it dried and tightened your skin until it felt like something stretched over a frame. It remembers the cold if you worked in shadow, the way the wind cut through your clothes and left your skin chilled and numb. It remembers the contact with materials, the grit of coal dust, the slipperiness of fish scales, the roughness of unplaned wood. All of these sensations are still there, written into your skin like words on a page, and as you lie still you can read them, can feel again each moment of contact between your body and the world. Your breath, which you have not thought about all day, now becomes something you notice. It moves in and out of you with a rhythm that is your own, the most basic rhythm, the one that started when you were born and will continue until you die. You can feel it in your chest, the rise and fall, the slight resistance as air moves through passages that are never quite clear. You can slow it if you try, can make each breath deeper and longer, can take some small measure of control over this one thing. In a day when you have controlled nothing, when you have been pushed and pulled and demanded of from every direction, this small act of control matters. You breathe, and you choose to breathe, and in that choice, you are still yourself. In the deepest silence, when the sounds of the street have faded and the others in the room have stilled, you can hear your heart. Yet a sound you usually ignore, a sound that is always there but that you have learned to filter out, like the sound of your own voice or the feeling of your clothes against your skin. But now, in this quiet, it becomes audible, a steady thumping that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, from inside your own chest and from the darkness around you. It is the sound of being alive, the most basic proof that you exist. It is also a reminder that this proof can be revoked at any moment, that hearts stop, that lives end, that the sound you hear now could be the last sound you ever hear. You listen to it for a while, this heartbeat, this evidence of your own existence, and then you let it fade back into the background, because listening too closely is a kind of fear, and you have fear enough already. Between waking and sleeping there is a place, a borderland where the mind begins to let go of the day, but has not yet surrendered to the night. You drift there now, not quite asleep, not quite awake, your thoughts moving in ways they do not move during the hours of consciousness. They are not thoughts really, not the kind you can hold and examine. They are fragments, pieces of the day that float up unbidden and then disappear, like bubbles rising to the surface of water, and then bursting, the face of the foreman appears. His expression the same as it always is, a mixture of boredom and the constant search for someone to blame. You see him for a moment, clearly, as if he were standing in front of you, and then he is gone, replaced by something else. The corner where you saw the beggar this morning, his hand extended, his eyes looking past you at something you could not see. The smell of bread from the bakery, so strong that you can almost taste it, though you know you are not near the bakery, though you know the smell is only memory. A fragment of conversation from somewhere, words you heard but did not listen to, now repeating themselves in your mind like a song you cannot forget. These fragments have no order, no logic. They appear and disappear, according to rules you cannot understand. A random slideshow of the day's impressions. You do not try to control them, cannot control them. You simply watch as they pass, these pieces of your life, these small moments that together make up the day that is now ending. Sometimes the fragments are not from today, but from other days, other times, other versions of you. A voice from years ago, someone you knew, someone who is probably dead now. A place you have not thought about in months, a room you lived in, a street you walked. These older fragments mix with the newer ones, past and present blending together, in a way that makes you unsure where you are when you are who you are. In this borderland, time loses its meaning, and you drift through all the moments of your life at once. The thoughts of tomorrow begin to intrude. Small anxieties that float up from wherever anxieties live. You must wake early, earlier than the others, to be first at the gate. You must avoid the man on Mulberry Street, the one who looked at you wrong yesterday, the one who might be waiting. You must find work, must earn enough, must not fail. These thoughts are not fully formed, are more like feelings than ideas, but they are there, pressing at the edges of your drifting consciousness, reminding you that the day will come again whether you want it or not. Somewhere beneath these surface thoughts, deeper fears begin to stir. What if there is no work tomorrow? What if the sickness that has been going around finally finds you? What if today was the last good day? The last day when you could still hope? These fears are too big to face directly, so they move in the depths, shadows beneath the surface of your mind, present but not quite visible. You feel them the way you feel the cold, as something that surrounds you, that seeps into you, that is part of the night. And yet, even as you drift towards sleep, there is a part of you that resists. Sleep means the end of this day, means that tomorrow is closer, means that you will have to wake and do it all again. Sleep is surrender, is giving up the last few moments of consciousness that are yours alone. You hold on to wakefulness, even as it slips away, cling to the borderland, even as it dissolves beneath you. But you cannot hold forever. The body demands what it demands, and what it demands now is rest. The room around you is alive with the sounds of other sleepers. They breathe in a chorus that has no conductor, each one following their own rhythm, their own pace, their own pattern of inhalation and exhalation. Some breathe quickly, shallowly, their bodies still half awake, still not quite ready to surrender. Some breathe slowly, deeply, the long, even breaths of those who have already crossed into sleep. Some snore, the air vibrating in their throats, producing sounds that are almost musical in their variety. The breathing of many people in one space creates its own atmosphere, its own weather, a thick, warm air that moves in and out of all these lungs, passing from one body to another, mingling the lives of everyone here. From somewhere in the darkness, a voice speaks, not to you, not to anyone, just speaks, the words forming and then dissolving into the air. It is someone talking in their sleep, their unconscious mind producing speech that makes no sense to waking ears. You catch a word, maybe a name, maybe nothing at all, and then the voice falls silent again. Later, another voice will speak, or the same voice will speak again, and you will hear fragments of conversations that are happening in dreams you cannot see. A body shifts nearby, the straw ticking rustling with the movement. You feel the vibration through the floor, the slight disturbance in the air. Someone turns over, seeking a more comfortable position, though comfort is relative here, and no position is truly comfortable. An arm or a leg touches you briefly, the contact of skin that is warm and slightly damp. You do not move away, do not acknowledge the contact. It is normal, expected, part of the condition of sleeping in a space where bodies must touch, because there is not enough room for them not to. The cough comes from across the room, the same cough you have been hearing for days. It is worse tonight, deeper, more insistent, a cough that seems to come from somewhere deep in the chest, from the place where the lungs meet the throat. You listen to it, counting the seconds it lasts, noting the sound of it, the quality. You have heard this cough before, in others, and you know what it can mean. You hold your breath for a moment, as if not breathing could protect you from whatever is in the air, and then you breathe again because you have no choice. The cough subsides, and the room is quiet once more, in the midst of all these bodies, all these sounds, all this shared air and shared space. You feel something that might seem strange to someone who has never lived like this. You feel not crowded but held, not invaded but accompanied. In this city where you are nothing, where you are one of millions, where you could disappear and no one would notice the presence of these others, these strangers who are not quite strangers, is a kind of comfort. You are not alone, you are never alone. And in a world that offers so little safety, the simple fact of not being alone is something. The night has its own geography, its own territories that you pass through as you move from waking to sleeping. The first sleep comes easily, a gentle falling away from consciousness that is almost pleasant. You are asleep before you know it, before you can mark the moment of transition. And for a time there is nothing. But sleep is not a single state, is not a continuous blank. It has layers, stages, levels of depth that you move through without choosing. The first sleep is light, so light that any sound can pull you back. A voice in the street, a door closing somewhere in the building, a shift from the person beside you, and you are awake again, your eyes open in the darkness, your heart beating. You lie there, listening, waiting, and then slowly you drift down again back into the light sleep that is always ready to release you. Later, in the middle of the night, you wake again. This time it is not a sound that wakes you, but something else, something internal, a shift in your own body or mind that pulls you up from the depths. You do not know what time it is, cannot know, have no way of measuring the hours. It could be midnight, could be 2 in the morning, could be any time between dusk and dawn. You lie in the darkness, and you are awake, fully awake as you are during the day. And you know that this is normal, that everyone wakes in the night, that sleep is not a single block, but a series of episodes separated by these periods of consciousness. During these awakenings, you think, not the fragmented thoughts of the borderland, but real thoughts, clear thoughts, thoughts that have the same quality as daytime thinking. You think about the day that has passed, about the work, about the people you saw. You think about tomorrow, about what you need to do, about the chances that things will be better. You think about the people you have lost, the ones who are not here anymore, the ones whose faces appear in the darkness whether you want them. These thoughts are not anxious, not necessarily, just present, just there, part of the night's landscape. Then, at some point, you sink again. This time you go deeper down into a level of sleep that is different from the earlier light sleep. Here there is nothing, no thoughts, no dreams, no awareness of your body or the room or the others around you. There is only blankness, a complete absence of anything, a state that is as close to death as you will ever come while still being alive. This is real rest, the only real rest you get, and it lasts for hours that you cannot measure because you are not there to measure them. And then the dreams come, they rise from somewhere deep, from the place where your mind goes when it is not watching itself, and they fill the blankness with. Some dreams are good. are wishes granted in sleep that are denied in waking. You are eating, a feast, more food than you have ever seen, and you can eat as much as you want without anyone stopping you. You have found money, a pocket full of coins, enough to pay for weeks of rent and food and everything else. You are somewhere else, somewhere green and open, where the air is clean and the work is easy, and no one tells you what to do. These dreams are cruel because they end, because you wake from them to the same room, the same hunger, the same life. Other dreams are not good. The foreman is chasing you, his face twisted with anger, and you cannot run fast enough. You are falling, from a height, from a building, or a ship, or just from the sky. And there is nothing to catch you. You are back in a moment from your past, a moment you have tried to forget, and you must live it again, must feel again what you felt then. These dreams are the price you pay for the good ones. The darkness that balances the light toward morning, the sleep changes again. It becomes lighter, more aware, as if your body knows that the day is coming and is preparing to wake. You drift in this shallow sleep, half aware of the room, half still caught in the fragments of dreams. The two states blend together, waking and sleeping, mixing, until you cannot tell which is which. This is the time when you are most vulnerable, most open to the day that is approaching, most ready to leave the night behind. The cold comes first, a deep chill that has settled into the room during the darkest hours. It wakes you more effectively than any sound could, seeping through the thin blanket, through your clothes, through your skin, into your very bones. You curl tighter, pull the blanket closer, try to conserve whatever warmth your body still produces. The cold is a presence in the room, a thing that has weight and substance, and it presses against you from all sides. In the darkness, you sense a change. It is not light yet, not really, but the quality of the blackness has shifted. What was absolute is now merely deep. What was complete is now merely dark. The night is ending, though you cannot see it end, cannot mark the moment when it gives way to day. The change is gradual, almost imperceptible, but it is there, and your body knows it even before your mind does. The animals know it too from somewhere outside. A rooster crows, its call cutting through the cold air. Another answers, farther away, and then another, until a chain of crowing stretches across the city. The horses in the stable down the street begin to stir, their hooves shifting, their breath snorting in the cold. The dogs, which have been silent for hours, begin to bark again, responding to some signal that only they can detect. The city is waking, its animal heart beginning to beat again. If there was fire, if there were embers kept alive through the night, now is the time when they matter most. You think of them, those small coals buried in ash, holding their heat against the darkness. You will check them soon, will see if they have survived, will coax them back into flame if they have. But for now, you lie still, holding on to the last moments of the night, knowing that once you move the day will begin and there will be no stopping it. The decision comes whether you are ready for it or not. Your eyes open and you are awake. You are still breathing, still alive, still here. The night did not take you. The morning has found you. You must rise. The city reassembles itself around you as you make your way back. The streets that were empty are filling now, the first workers emerging from their doors and heading toward their labours. The baker, who has been working for hours already, his ovens hot, his bread rising, his day half done, while yours is just beginning. The milkman, his cart loaded with bottles, his horse knowing the route without being told. The sweepers, their brooms already moving, pushing the night's accumulation of filth toward the gutters where it will wait for the rain. The light grows as you walk, slowly at first, then more quickly, the sun climbing somewhere behind the buildings, invisible but present. The sky lightens from black to grey to pale blue, and the gas lamps which have burned all night are extinguished one by men with long poles. The city emerges from darkness like a face emerging from shadow, its features becoming clear, its expressions becoming readable. The sounds layer on top of each other, building toward the roar that will fill the day. The factory whistles blow, announcing the start of another shift. The market vendors begin their calls, advertising their goods in voices hoarse from years of calling. The church bells ring, marking the hour, calling the faithful to prayer. Each sound adds itself to the chorus, and by the time the sun is fully up, the city is itself again, loud and chaotic and alive. And you are part of it. Your body, which was yours alone in the night, is now public again, available for use, available for labour. You go through the same motions you went through yesterday, the same motions you will go through. You dress, you eat, if there is food, you step out into the street and become one of the millions who move through this city each day. The repetition is not something you think about. It is simply what is, what has always been, what will always be. But today is not exactly the same as yesterday. You carry yesterday with you, in your aching muscles, in your tired eyes, in the knowledge of what you survived. You carry it in your memory, in the faces you saw, and the words you heard, and the small moments that made the day your own. Today will be different in its own ways, will bring its own faces and words and moments, and then you will carry those into tomorrow. This is what it means to live, to accumulate days, to carry them with you, to be shaped by them, even as you forget them. As you step through the door and into the street, you feel something that might be hope, or might just be the body's refusal to stop moving. Perhaps today will be better. Perhaps the work will be easier, the pay better, the people kinder. Perhaps something will change, some small thing that will make this day different from all the others. You know, this hope is probably foolish, probably just a trick your mind plays to get you moving, but you hold on to it anyway, because you are one of millions. Your name will not be remembered, your story will not be told, your life will leave no mark on the records of this city. But you are real, you are here. You breathe and eat and sleep and work and hope and fear and love and lose and go on. Your labour built this city, your sweat watered its streets. Your body was one of the countless bodies that made New York what it was and what it would become. You will die, and the city will continue without you. But while you live, you are part of it, as much a part as the buildings and the streets and the ships in the harbour. The night will come again, will always come, bringing with it the same darkness, the same fears, the same small comforts. And the morning will come after it, will always come, bringing the same light, the same labour, the same hope. This is the rhythm of your life, the cycle that will continue until it stops. You do not question it, do not resist it. You live it, day after day, night after night, because living is what you do. Now the day is before you, full of all the possibilities and all the certainties that every day contains. You step forward, into the street, into the crowd, into the city that is already fully awake and fully itself behind you. The room where you spent the night grows smaller, recedes into memory, waits for your return. Tonight you will be back, will lie down again in the darkness, will go through all of this again. But for now, for this moment, you are moving. You are alive. You are part of the great machine of the city, and the city never sleeps, and neither really do you.